given a chance to have discourse, as per the president's speech on the 1st of June. Days later, he actually goes on through and mentions in a public forum that if you do not support this and you're basically a member of parliament within my own coalition, then we'll actually see if you'll get any development, which I thought was in bad taste.
Yeah, it was in bad taste. Now, Ruth is going to read some comments here that have been coming in, but I have a quick theory about, because I've always been curious, who writes these bills? Because it seems like this was just dumped. It was written somewhere, like in a smoky basement, and it was just dumped on people. I've been curious about who writes the bills because I have a theory. This bill, I think the intent, by the government is write a very ridiculous bill, a bill with extremes. Then people are going to complain, and then all of a sudden, now there was a 3% housing levy, then we're going to reduce it to 1.5%, and then we're going to tell you that we've reduced it for you. It's anchoring bias. This is a tactic used by auctioneers. So, let's say, for example, let's say like this microphone I'm using is going to be auctioned. Let's say the market price for this microphone is $500. It's being auctioned. What the auctioneer is going to do is going to start with a ridiculous number, like $50,000, knowing perfectly well that no one is going to pay $50,000 for it. But what that does is that it puts doubt in people's minds, or rather it puts an anchor in people's mind that's $50,000. So when you start at $5,000, you think, like you've really gotten yourself a good deal. So you start at $5,000, someone else comes up $5,500, $6,000, and then you end up paying $7,000 for a $500 microphone, which I think is what's happening. Even when they're saying that, we're going to increase VAT to 16%. Now, when they bring it down to 10%, watasema tumekusaidia. Kind of like, like going, 10 steps ahead and then coming back 9 steps back and then saying that we're making progress. So that's just my theory, and I think that's what they plan to do. So now I think they're in the face of now trying to massage things based on what people have complained and say that tumewasaidia, but it's still gonna be very hurtful to the people. Ruth.
Very interesting scenario. I think there's a name to that experiment, the Pavlovian experiment.
Pavlovian experiment, yes.
Where they give the dog food and hit the bell, and the dog would salivate. They do it a second time, then the third time they hit the bell without the food. The dog still salivates because it expects the food to come on through, because you've conditioned the mind.
Mrs. Oyomno's biology class.
Yes, so you could actually be smart on something. Okay. We're probably in between a Kenyan Pavlovian experiment.
Yes, absolutely, Pavlovian experiment. Anyway, Ruth.
Pavangoa?
Pavlovian.
You know what that creates? Mistrust, right? So like citizens don't trust the government, and also how the government behaves or acts is like, we don't trust you, and I think this is just like a general observation of the Kenyan, not economy, but just Kenya in general. There's mistrust in everything to everyone, both to the employers, to employees, to the government, to the citizens. And I think this kind of plays right into it, how they're trying to sell this.
Yeah.
And I mean, this will pass. Something, it might pass with amendments, who knows, but something of this sort will pass. But then it will still leave a bad taste in with Kenyans. And I think it just perpetuates the entire cycle of mistrust. And I don't know, like the day we'll start trusting each other in Kenya in terms of like even performing services, or like if you're asking me for money, it's exactly for what you told me you're going to do, not nefarious reasons that I don't know, but you could be doing it. I think that's when we'll literally move forward economically. Then somebody will be like, it's fine, the government can tax me. I'm not going to be happy, but the government can tax me. But right now, it's just pure mistrust.
I'm just smiling because the one bank that was called Trust Bank in Kenya went down because of mistrust.
Yes.
So you probably on to
Atul
something.
Shah.
Yes.
Yeah, Atul Shah. It went down because of
mistrust.
Trust Bank. Yeah. Comments.
Yes. Let's read the comments. And guys, please, can you really write? I'm here to read your comments. So I'm gonna start. I see Pablo is watching. Pablo, welcome. I'm back.
Okay. Hi, Pablo.
He sounds nefarious.
He's not. So I'll start with Slay says, I know someone who supports the financial bill. Kaiser says, hello guy, I'm late as I'm at work. But then goes on to say, it's a great plan, just give it a chance.
I think
you know what?
he's talking about the housing plan. Afro-Jamaican likes it, that's Kaiser Soze. He likes it because there's a version of it that has worked in Jamaica, but I think Afro-Jamaican has not quite gotten to understand. He wants us to give it a chance.
That's fine. But you know what I would like if he can do? It's he or she.
It's a he.
It's a he, okay. If you can just literally give us a comment why you think it's a great plan, that would be great. Then like we'll be able to read it. Ashley says, I saw somewhere NHIF does not have funds, so what happened to what the people are contributing? That's a good question, Slay. On the front that supports the bill, they said it needs a few amendments, but need not go into depth on what kind of amendments. What we do need to do, we did need to know the amendments. We do need to know. They also say that the view on the financial bill had been corrupted qua ground. Please note, these are not my views. We do know that. I try to summarize what I understood.
What was corrupted? If the friend could tell us, like
that
what was corrupted,
great.
maybe what people have not seen, that would be good.
Yeah, I would love to know. And we literally, let me also say, just because we might have different views does not mean that we're not welcoming to hear what other people do say. So please contribute.
And also for the person suggesting that it's corrupted, because this thing is definitely affecting watu kwa ground. So if the information that is fikiaing those guys on the ground is very incomplete, of course tutaanza ile
would love to know.
Tutaanza ile game ya broken telephone, you whispering. So by the time ati umesema
na uliambiwa pale mwanzo she sells seashells at the seashore, then unaambiwa urepeat
ati guidhiaka kunywa mai, unaweza kusema kitu different.
ama unaambiwa ni kitu kipi kikusitikishacho, and then you have to repeat and repeat and repeat.
Ama unafanya kama moja piki ponkia ngoa, something different.
Thieves are writing the bill. Wow, Greg. Love to hear more about that. They will force it down our throats. That's Emily. Emily also says the idea of taxation is good, but not in Kenya. What happened to all the money scandals from the past? Trust but verify. Let me tell you.
How do you verify?
Are you verifying? You're not given the details to verify whatever you're trusting. Pablo, please call in. That's Slay saying, that's not me. That's Slay. But I'm also adding to that.
Pablo, watu wamekumbis 20268345570 and *5. Pablo.
Stephen JJ says, my mom passed away in 2018 and SSF Nairobi sent us to Shago Siaya and all siblings have to be present. This development pia imeleta shida mingi.
Now, that's
also
so sad.
On several levels. Number one, I'm sorry, Stephen, but the rest of what the government does, because it does not trust people, but also it is not to be trusted.
Now, you see, there's a high level of mistrust, and this is where I want Kaiser Soze to understand. And this mistrust comes from experience. It doesn't come from we're just not trusting. It comes from experience. And that's where that name, Mtukufu Lais, is coming. And especially, and we're not here, on the politics side of things. But I think, unfortunately, because we live in an era of social media where what people said before, these lies are just coming in, so fluently and so frequently that you wonder, hakuna mtu hata anamweka breaks, we cannot do that. Do not go in public and say this because it's not doable, it's not possible. It seems like it's a habit and it keeps coming back, and that's the reason why people are just not trusting, what he's saying in stories za jaba.
Kama mtungia gas.
Yes.
So maybe
I was in Kenya for that.
So maybe I have a different perspective that I always try to place up so that you can actually try and get to the people's cycle. When you talk about someone saying a lie, it's easy to forgive a lie, but it's harder to forgive a broken promise. So he's been on a tirade of saying, I'll promise you a better future. I'll promise you I'm getting in there.
Tutatenga.
Tutafanya. Yeah. So he doesn't seem to realize that he, as an institution, is the one to ideally be the proverbial either Moses or Joshua to take us into Canaan. And every promises he actually breaks ends up breaking up the psyche of the people. So I actually wouldn't even look at it that he's actually lying. He's actually breaking very many promises. And he's actually losing any sort of moral authority to continue leading. And he needs to really go around and either try and see how many of these promises can still be executed, or basically just sit down and say, guys, we have a broken system.
But don't you think he's working based on experience, where he's seen people lie before and still get re-elected? So for him, you know, like his priority, of course, is going to be getting re-elected in 2027. And he just feels like he's lied before and he's not suffered any consequences for those lies.
I tend to be one of these positive people who always believes that people have a moral compass. And I would like to believe that one day he actually will sit down and look at the promises he's done. And even if he can execute 70 to 80% of them well and done. But my biggest disappointment as a Kenyan is that he keeps on making so many promises. He's on the cusp of, doing his first 12 months in office within the next 2 months. I haven't been able to see any of the promises coming on through. I am only seeing a bigger and bigger burden coming on through. And to try and offset some of these expectations that, people are quite, very concerned, if not suspicious about with the finance bill, he needs to be able to up his game and deliver the promises. As a leader, whether we voted for him, whether we didn't vote for him, whether we voted for the other guy, Tingiza Mti, whether we're sleeping during the election day, he remains a president for all Kenyans in and out of the country. Yeah. And he needs to realize that every time he sleeps, he's carrying the entire burden of the promises of the people and should actually be able to deliver them.
Wow, Mika, I think Mika wanted to add something onto this. Mika?
Yeah, I totally understand what Hilary is saying, and I agree with most of it. But then the thing is, Hilary, I think the reason why people are looking at the broken promises as lies is because he has a second arm of his institution, and that second arm usually comes and contradicts everything he says. And then the excuses that second arm gives usually don't even make sense, to a point whereby even if we're saying, okay, fine, you broke my promise and you come and give us this excuse, your second in command comes and give us another excuse that just doesn't make sense. Who are we supposed to believe, and how are we supposed to even now look at you and see that you have the capacity of delivering this promise that you haven't kept? Because you will say, okay, we are still trying to work on it, we are trying to get to the better of things. Your second in command comes and said, wale walikula pesa yote wamemaliza, hakuna kitu sijui, and then they say something stupid and doesn't even give room for discussion or anything. So I don't know why they do what they're doing, because I don't believe it's just chance that they keep crossing on each other. But it's quite hard to understand how they're running this government. It's more of like we have a jester, and then we have a king who tries to limit that jester, but then again he himself becomes a jester at some time. So the confusion that comes out from the two of them just makes people lose that faith or that hope. And I've just said to say, let's go with the jokes. We're being lied to. Even if he did go and provide that 70 to 80% of his promises, after all the topsy-turvy that the country has gone to, he's not helping himself.
Wow.
Let me say this, and it's a conversation I was having with some people, and I think one person said it best. I think it was Lawrence. I think because he was questioning what's the point of saying all these things but not delivering. So
make people happy.
Yeah, but like now Hilary over here, I think he's been part of that Pavlovian experiment, because he has that
hope.
That hope. Yeah. The conditioning.
Beli mbelia. So anasema lazima kuna kachakula kanakuja. Kuna kakitu.
Na nimsewa changes. Anyway, I digress. So Nani was saying, my guy was saying, just don't say anything. Don't say there's corruption. Don't say pesa iliporwa. Because you first say that when you came in, the coffers had been coughed, there was nothing, but then you go ahead and you add all these 50 people, however you want to,
50 CASs,
whatever it is. Yeah. When you're saying there's no money, but you're adding and you're creating offices, right? So the idea was, don't say anything. If corruption, just let things be status quo. Don't promise. Don't talk about gas tanks. I mean, Kerea
Cylinder.
Mtungi ya gas.
mtungi ya gas
Yeah.
itaanguka from 2800
To 300.
to 300. Then you come and tell people I was talking about the container.
The cylinder peke
The
yake.
cylinder peke yake. Surely.
That was a good one.
Okay.
I mean,
Alafu kulikuwa na hii kazi ya vijana, right?
Yeah.
Because initially it was something else. And then he tells them, in fact, hiyo kazi ya, what was it? Was it say, there was something that he had actually stated, telling the you know, like cleaning up,
Ajira,
whatever it
kwa
was.
vijana, yeah.
But then he said, wachai na hiyo, mtajenga, we'll start construction na mtapata kazi.
yeah, from constructing houses.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, so you're like, okay, but even if you construct houses, it's going to be short term. Because when you look at it, because once the construction happens, this is going to be long term. Then after that,
Yeah, and even
And not
who's
in a bad
being
way.
employed? It's people in the construction industry.
right?
Yeah, not everyone.
Not everyone.
So
Yeah.
it does make sense in a way that, okay, you're trying to do this, you're going to create there's employment, because now when you break it down, you know, border these guys will be given, kuna wamama watauza food, you know, in the people who will be buying food, they have to go and buy food, so farmers will have money, stuff like that. Yes, I understand that, but at the same time, there are other, you know, why not first create employment so that people themselves can actually survive? They can actually then have something they can they can comfortably contribute to that fund, whatever, into which now they put in. Then after some time, you can get your house, if anything, or if you can opt to. But then I think Hila mentioned something about when you go to take out the money that you've invested in, unagongwa ushuru tena, whatever you have added in. But I think that gentleman who was it Owen? Not Owen. The guy
Kwame Owino.
Kwame.
Yeah.
He said something that was very interesting. Why not use the national housing, whatever it is, and use that as the guys who are into which the money goes in, and let them handle the construction. But anyway, again, information is not really trickling down. And even when you start questioning, you're not really getting straight answers. You remember the guy, the guy who went to present to give the presentation.
The PS Hinga.
Hinga.
Yeah.
The guy was sweating.
Yeah, and he was
dropping
he
water.
was so angry.
It's like he was very angry. So
he was very angry at why people are not getting.
Information is not trickling down to the masses.
You know, there's something he said.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
There's something Hinga said. I'm just going to bang on what he just said. He said it's like you guys ni kama amshiki, and like yeah, atushiki. That's the thing. We
So break it down slowly.
I know. It's like you guys don't understand. Like yeah, that's the point. We don't understand. Okay,
That
Mika.
is it.
No, there's a lot even surrounding the finance bill. Sorry, Mick, I'll be as short as my hairline. I don't have a long hairline. You know, some of the other salient things that have been happening the last 3-4 months within government quarters is, with the cash crunch coming in, there is this big, hairy, audacious goal to try and centralize government collection and even expenditure. So say there are about 60-70 parastatals. Kenya Pipeline has its own account. Kenya Ports Authority has its own account. So the end game of the treasury is to have a single
money
government account managing it and placing the disbursements, because they say the people, some of them have got surpluses and they're hamstringing government operations, which for me is actually a fear. Because, you know, if for instance, there's a national housing corporation whose mandate is to go out and deal with that, but you do not want them to collect it. So exactly how will you be able to account for that money? I mean, it actually hits upon to that. How do you then go around and actually have the experts executing? Do you really expect Kenya Power to go around and deal with Kenya Pipeline funds and be able to execute it? Or how do you go around and ensure that these are the service lines and this is exactly what they're requiring to go and execute? Or are we then going to ground everything to a halt?
So Yoni Kama, like we're in this group over here, let's say we are friends, then I say, all the salaries that you guys get, bring it all in my account.
Tawapanga.
And then whenever you want to spend, then I'll give you money. Unataka kulipa rent na kupatia yako.
Precisely the point.
Unataka kulipa karo na kupatia yako.
Jana high school waneka pocket money pamoja tu watu wanataka.
Exactly.
Anakula kushinda wiki.
And the Basa is a happy man from the first week. Akini week 11 when he's going to ensure that the caution money, Basa amekuwa mgonjwa.
It's not available. Okay. Wow. This is so scary, because I think they did the same thing with the embassies. Across embassies used to collect fees on passports na nini, but now you see any money that you pay, whether you're buying a visa, you know, like as a US citizen, or whether you're paying for a passport, you're either going to e-citizen or you're going to a government inaenda straight. Then the government in Nairobi decides, DC, mmekuwa watu wazuri sana, kuleni akaka kitu hapa. So what's happening, some things that embassies are supposed to pay are now in jeopardy of not being paid because they are not holding the money. They are waiting for the money from Nairobi. And previously, money used to come directly, and they could cater for certain things, like even paying local staff and stuff like that.
And actually, it became cheaper because replacing a passport at one point in time was $250.
For people out here.
If you're out here and you're replacing, now it's
I think
now it's like 40
I think that's those people who used to lose their passports, Kina and Mike.
Yes, and even
Shut up.
and even IDs. IDs I think I don't know whether they are free or they're cheaper. I'm not sure. I've never applied for an ID from the embassy.
I'm actually
Ruth.
okay with that. I mean, mainly I'm looking at it from a budgeting point of view, so that I do. The services they're providing, you have to remember the embassy represents the different agencies of a government, right?
Yeah.
So like if you want your ID or your passport or whatever, it has to go to the particular agency.
Yes.
So it's okay you pay to Nairobi, but then they need to make sure that the embassies, they have a yearly budget that pays for their things.
But that is not how things work, Ruth.
They should work that way, though.
Yeah, that's how they should work, but that is not how they work. But let me go back to the point that I wanted to bring in. The housing idea, affordable housing idea, brilliant idea, right? Very brilliant, very smart. The execution, poor. The communication, poor. The way that they're trying, because what I think is this: they saw that they launched the affordable housing, and it was a success because we have the project going on right now. Then they realized that the money that we had set up for this project is right now successful and it's working. Remember, this has been something that's been going on for a while. Things like the houses in Buxton, which are being handed over right now, started a while ago. So this is not something that started with this regime. It's just that something that was already there, they painted it, wamepaka makeup kidogo put out kama kwao.
And but they look good. I was in Mombasa a month ago. They actually
Buxton.
They
Buxton.
look very good.
That's
I'm not saying the
Buxton.
houses. I'm saying the affordable house ideas.
Yes.
Okay.
It was existing already.
Zakibira
It's just something. Yeah. It because of something that was already it is something that's in the works. It's only that they have to continue with it. But now they package it like they're bringing it anew as it's their idea, which is good. Gives them mileage on their agenda achievements. The thing is, I think right now, because they've seen how what they've done to make it smell and stink is them using the finance bill and using the affordable housing and trying to create that levy, that housing levy, trying to say that it's coming to this is a totally different project from what they're trying to do. They should be honest. But so if somebody looks into it and they're like, okay, this 3% that you're saying, this project already had money on its aside. It's something that's being done between the private sector, the government, and there's money for it. So this 3% you're collecting and you're trying to tell everybody they're going to have access to these houses, and you're not even marrying how that is going to happen. It's what's causing the issue and what's causing people to look at them funnily, because that 3% came out of nowhere. They just tagged it onto something that's beautiful and already existing.
And I think the one thing that they also needed to place on to get a buy-in would be, if you want to get a house in 5 years' time, you needed to have actually done X. You need to do this application, and you actually at least will get either 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom. So I agree with you on especially the communication bit.
Wow. Now, Hila, there's been a lot of mandamano, and I noticed, there's a lot of people who are against mandamano, especially right after this regime won. But they've been a bit silent, recently, because I'm seeing now all kinds of people attending these finance bill mandamanos that have been organized recently. These mandamanos, just trying to understand from here, do they get, are they just for political mileage? Do they get any outcomes, in as far as maybe even altering or changing legislation that's punitive?
Well, interesting question you've placed. Within the last 3 or 4 weeks, a bulk of the people who've been picketing are not your typical what you'd say people aligned to one political sort of coalition versus the other. It's actually been civil society who've been coming in.
Yes.
There's been a lot more vocal presence, by other, lobby groups such as the Federation of Kenya Employers, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, all of them talking towards perhaps that escalation, the potential escalation on taxation. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers talking towards the difficulty within which organizations are actually having, manufacturing organizations are having with operating in Kenya, etc. And it's actually changed the entire conversation on picketing from one political coalition against the other, having running battles, to, okay, you even end up having people from a UN consortium who broke protocol and a week ago are picketing. You'd have expected them to be quite neutral. So it's giving a different sort of perspective, saying, okay, hang on, guys, we did politic maybe 12 months ago. We now need to be able to fix the country. But there's some fundamental issues we've got to be able to go around and deal with. And I know that the FKE have actually had audience with the president earlier on this month. They went to the State House. I know KAM have also had a similar sort of engagement. But I think the bigger bit would be, like I think Mika said it quite well, the communication big, the packaging out of it all, what is the end game is not quite clear.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's just accept this, and then the good things on the other end.
And I mean,
wait and see.
Yes, and I'll give you an example. When NHIF came around and actually said that they wanted to go around and up the contribution, they actually said the benefits they're looking at trying to do is to ensure anyone above the age of 60 can go to hospital and get sorted without, having anything in the pocket. Any pre-existing conditions such as diabetes, if anyone had anything, with their kidneys that needed to be sorted out, etc., that they'd cater for it. So right from the get-go, by the time they said, and from this day to actually increasing, the acceptance to it was, like almost automatic. And indeed, they delivered on their promise. But on this particular one, whether it is going to be a one-bedroom house in Migori, whether Mika is actually going to get a Diani beach house, I'm still not so certain with this free housing and what sort of house it is going to be.
Okay. All right. Now, but here's the other thing. There's this talk also of Parliament being captured. So with all this mandamano, and you talked about the threat that came from the president the other day, that you must vote for this finance bill if you're in a coalition. Is this just one of those situations where we're doing whatever we want to do, but this will still pass? Because there's that talk of Parliament being captured, and that despite the fact that MPs are going back to mashinani and getting people's views, they are already, they've already been decided for on how they're going to vote.
I saw the comments by my president of the Republic of Kenya, which is my country, and I'm telling you, I was very saddened about it. And this came right after the fact that he, waxed lyrical about how he's been able to see a lot of discourse across the country. And for him to get back and even threaten his own coalition, tell them, if you want roads in your constituency, if you want development, you'd better vote for this because this is where the money is coming from, or else we'll deal with you as someone who was a dissident, I think was quite unfortunate in my bit. What my expectation is that they should be able to go and look at some of these pertinent issues that have been raised by the various lobby groups and try and get a negotiating point. That is the feeling and my hope. The reality of what has happened in the past, and we're not just talking about the current president, but any other president in the past who's actually sought to go and get some taxation, is that for as long as it's actually been sensitized, the Pavlov experiment has already begun, and they'll just keep on ringing the bell. Whether the food comes in or not is another thing.
But people still have that hope that chakula itakuja.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. Our guest tonight is Hilary Itela, the board chair of Technology Service Providers of Kenya, TESPOC. He's currently in the U.S. representing TESPOC in the ICANN 7 Policy Forum. Now, ICANN is an international organization that manages global internet. Now, Hilary Itela is also the former director of the Kenya Rugby Union. So keep it locked, because we will be talking about the future of Kenyan Rugby. We want you to stay tuned for that. And we'll also shortly be talking about how diaspora can meaningfully contribute to the finance bill or to engagement on issues happening in Kenya. But before we continue, I want to go to Mika, and we will be talking to Itela about rugby in a few moments. Mika, I want you to give the audience a hint of maybe some of the questions you have for him regarding the future of rugby in Kenya. Mika.
Actually, when you say we have Hilary Itela, former rugby director from the KRFU, najua kuna watu kakina wana Mike wamekuja guns blazing because one Mike wanga KRFU must go.
Locked and loaded, Gabriel. Locked and loaded.
What I'm actually trying to look and to achieve today is just to get. We've had opinions from me as a fan, a former player, one Mike as a fan, Ali as a fan, other former players as a fan. But I would just like today for us to have a conversation and take a look from the inside of the KRU so that we can be able to dissect and have a conversation of how we came from the highs where we were to where we are right now, and how he, in his own opinion, as somebody who was a very good rugby player, somebody who was a very good rugby coach and went to rugby administration. So it's somebody who knows and understands his rugby and how we can do back. We can be able to elevate our rugby back to where it was and better than where it was.
Okay, all right. So you want to stay tuned. Itela is going to be talking about rugby from an insider's perspective, you know, because there's been a change in guard. And some people believe that the change in guard is what's going to change rugby, but there may be certain fundamental things from the inside that we don't know about that might still affect us, you know, like going forward. You know, like the Kenya Sevens team has been relegated from the RB 7 circuit, and we just want to get just a perspective of seeing from Itela whether there are some fundamental things that will still hold us back, or if we're looking to a bright future.
Mimi niko na maswali za polisi, but nitangoja tu.
Okay, all right.
Hapa itakuwa cross examination ile ya ajab.
Aya, sawa sawa. So stay tuned now, and to those listening, you know, you can start typing your questions up so that Tila prepares for that segment.
The guy who was heading KRU.
Yeah,
before he stepped down, when we were talking all that.
Yeah.
Apa.
Okay. Sawa sawa.
Permission to treat him as a hostile witness?
My lord.
Omosh.
It sounds like there's something deeper than this KRU thing. I think.
Maybe other maybe want to make you
there's something.
So today we'll know. Today we'll find out.
It could be an issue between Ngong Road and Nini.
Ngong Road and what? Impala and Queens both are on Ngong Road. You know, so it's an issue between Ngong Road and Ngong Road.
Ngong Road and Thika Road.
Just think about it.
Okay.
He's trying to say Kerea Wayakiwe.
Okay.
Just think about it.
Okay.
Just think about it. Watu wa hapa Rirush na wasewa
Kangemi.
Yes.
Okay, sawa. All right. I think Ruth, you wanted to read a few comments.
Yeah, let me read the rest of the comments. We don't separate politics and governance. And I know when you're reading comments, sometimes you kind of have to go back to conversations we had earlier. So Emily is saying we don't separate politics and governance. His approval rating is down, loans are due, and the cost of living is high. They should reduce government expenditure and create more employment opportunities in manufacturing before the bill is made into law. Where is the money to travel all over the world coming from if the government is broke?
Yeah, here's an interesting thing quickly on that comment. When the big conversation was happening on Citizen, the trade minister, Moses Kuria, was live from
Brussels. Was it
No,
Brussels?
it was Belarus.
Belarus.
It was Belarus.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And don't forget, they also had a power breakfast. Oh, sorry, carry on.
In Ukraine?
Nagutire besha.
yeah, okay.
Pesa onge. Angoa. Pesa onge.
That Pavlovian effect makes sense. Please excuse the spelling. Don't worry, Slay, right there with you. Slay also says politics is a dirty game. It's politricks.
Zani likes to call it.
It's politricks. Kwame Otieno is the guy. That's Stephen JJ. Stephen saying itakulwa. This the money was saying being put aside.
Tahulwa.
Stephen is also asking, is it social housing or affordable housing? Screen. Then
That's a question.
Slay's asking, how can Kenya make a comeback? And then
From what?
that okay.
Make Kenya great again.
I mean,
Maka.
quite a lot.
Ram style.
But
Or
you see,
then she does us. Rather, what will take for
but you
Kenya
see,
to make a comeback?
But you see, when Slay talks about a comeback, I mean, we've talked about here, you know, when people bought five shillings could buy you a loaf of bread and milk.
Correct.
And this was within our lifetimes of being sent to to the kiosk.
Yes.
You know, like I was talking to a cousin of mine
You
who
know,
was telling me,
Omosh used to be sent with 2 shillings.
yeah, shopping.
For a sack of potatoes.
Well,
Yeah.
well.
I used to buy 7 loaves, 7 milk and 2 loaves of bread.
2 shillings.
And
Imagine.
I would be given 20 bob and come back with change.
Angalia. Look at that. And that's within the life. I mean, Omosh is a bit,
Uko
you know,
50, 60
yeah,
hapo.
on the other side.
It's,
but
I'm not extreme. I'm just saying
yeah.
that it was Hapatu.
yeah,
Hapatu.
it's very recent. You know, like it's fairly recent. You know, in as far as you know, like I'm a young guy, and like I don't know about that. The rest
I
of you,
thought you guys are
but I can
dinosaurs.
remember.
Ali ulikula Superloaf, now ulikula Elliot, now ulikula Siju Victory, and all of them now, you know, the
That
if you-
Super Love tastes different
if-
today.
Yeah. Mi nakumbuka na Dextrosol. Mi nakumbuka tukienda madrasa South Sea when we were young, we used to be given 1 shilling for break. 1 bob.
Correct.
Na hiyo 1 bob
Correct.
itanunua mabuyu, kulikuwa na powder. Kulikuwa na powder ingine ilikuwa inauzwa, achana na Dextrosol.
mabuyu ile ya kulamba ile.
Bas mika naijua. You know, you could get that and there were a couple of other things you could get
Actually,
with that 1 shilling.
1 shilling you could get samo
one bob.
na nini na mandazi.
Look at that. And
Canteen.
Ama ulikuwa unapata maembe mbili zile zimekuwa pilipili.
and that's why, you know, like someone who was making a modest income, you know, working a modest job, you know, like as a security guard, you know, like, or even maybe as a secretary, you could afford a fairly decent life. I was talking to a cousin of mine who was working in the early 90s, and she was telling me she had a house in Komarok, and she was telling me that she was getting paid, I don't know, 4,000 shillings a month, and she could afford rent, she could afford food, she could
Fair.
afford transport, she could afford all those
Clothes.
things,
And
yeah.
even send some stuff to your paros.
Yes, so with the math that I did, you know, which I'm not gonna go into the details of, someone who was making 20,000 or maybe 25,000 shillings
Huyo alikuwa sonko.
in the early 90s, to live that same lifestyle that 25,000 shilling person was making, you need to make close to 400,000. So which goes to show you that today, even people with decent jobs still can't afford. They can't afford to live in the neighborhoods they were raised in.
And don't forget, and this is very important. Stuff has gone up, cost has gone up, salaries.
Salaries zimekwama.
Imagine
Hazijasonga.
somebody was being paid 20,000 then. There's people who are making 20,000 now.
And that is somebody
Listen.
making a lot of money at 20.
Yeah.
And with the
Because
100
average waga 15 hapa.
Where?
Lakini sioni kila mahali. Nyinyi mkianza kazi, tukianza jobs tulikuwa tunalipwa 35,000 a year na tulikuwa tuna survive.
Ali, do you know what an assistant chief
Tunalipa
is?
apartment, tunalipa gari, tunalipa bills na bado
But-
tuna
no.
pesa.
No, but Mika, even when you're doing that, you have a roommate.
No, lakini Mika, when you are earning
Oh.
When you have
35k,
a roommate,
no,
Yeah.
Mika,
No.
hiyo 35k,
me no.
labda Richmond, hiyo 35k
Maybe
hautakaa
Richmond.
nayo DC.
Not Richmond, no, si DC.
Yeah.
Tukiishi
Yeah,
kwa zile
utakaa nayo
apartment,
DC.
tunaishi- okay, fine, hata kama tunaishi na roommate, we could still survive.
Yeah.
Right now, even just surviving with a roommate, we need double that.
But Mika, that guy who was making 35k in 2010, today, here in the US, we're talking about 35k a year. 35k,
Yeah.
someone who's making 35k in 2010, maybe when they were with a roommate and everything, today they're making 100k. Today they're making 120k. They're not.
Sikatai, but ndo nakwambia, right now, somebody who starts saiseme utoke college uende uandike hiyo job na 35k, utaishi na mama yako.
So
Yes.
Oh yeah. In Kenya,
yeah.
definitely.
Yes.
Hiyo unaishi na
that-
mama yako.
Yeah.
that
Even
is
here.
true.
Yeah.
And
Even here utaishi na mama yako.
Yeah, even here utaishi na mama yako at
Lazima
35K.
wale tukuhama.
Yeah.
But the salary levels in Kenya
They're
are really,
very
really drastically
low.
bad. An assistant chief is actually paid 15k.
Yeah, I
An
mean, surely.
assistant chief. Na unajua huyo jamaa ndio wafanya job kwa kijiji. He's the one who sits down and is zile all those things, siji watu wameiba, siji mang'ombe, siji manini, I don't know what he needs to sign.
Jirani alirogwa.
Yep, he needs to sign papers for what is it called?
Una check.
Succession. Siji, I don't know, identify sijui nini, I don't know, kuna jamaa siji kang'ombe, I don't whatever.
Yeah.
Assistant chief ndio fanya hizo vitu. Na yupewa na pikipiki. By
Yeah.
the way. Na gava. Si ndio?
Okay.
So just imagine that guy is making 15k.
Can I say, if there's one thing I literally don't know how to like wrap it around my head is like the money people make in Kenya, and somehow they expect to survive on it. And the sad part is they can't leave those jobs because there are no jobs.
Yeah,
No,
they
that-
can't.
There are no jobs. So like they will take whatever the employers are gonna give them, whether it's bad management, low pay, whatever, just to have something.
It is muhadhara now. Let me shock you. So Babahanya is telling me there's a guy who works where he is built, yeah? Niwochi. No, he's a caretaker, we're going to say. He's from, I think, Burundi. Jama makes 6,000. 6,000, eh?
A month.
Yes. In Burundi. Akombele kamfuko ya
Balling
shati.
out of control.
Yes.
Which goes to show you that the cost
Well-
of living in Burundi
Yeah.
is much lower.
Lower. Imagine
Unajua hata
so, yeah.
sisi when I was in Dubai, like wewe you have like your QA engineer, right? You're working for a construction company. Like alida uko kwa ofisi nini, unalipiwa house allowance, unalipiwa nyumba, unafanyiwa nini. Huko nje laborers wale walikuwa wanabebonga na basi wanavaa uniform ya blue, the ones who people protest about that they're being treated badly. Those guys from Nepal, India, nini were making how much? 800 dirhams a month. You umeka kwa ofisi, you're making close to 25,000 dirhams a month. But then that guy will show you pictures of his home. Huko kwao, huko Kathmandu. The palace he built. Na hiyo mshahara yako mingi kwenu huwezi tengeneza nyumba. Like those guys, so it's pointing to what Mike is saying. As sisters, we're being paid, we're feeling we cannot afford life right now. But there's somebody who getting what you're getting per member. They're balling and they're living seriously, or the cost of living over there makes it easier for them. But still, going back to Kenya, the cost of living in Kenya is so bad to a point whereby somebody who is here and making money here, like you're making the money here and you went back to live in Kenya, you will not be living in such a substantial difference, or the way somebody who made the same money here and went to live in Burundi would live.
You know, Mika, there's something very interesting my mother told me. You know, because you know, sisi watu wana hizi dreams. Tutarudi. There's something very interesting. My own mother told me, you know, like she looked at the townhome that I own, where I live in, and she was like, if you're gonna go back to Nairobi and you want to live at the same standard that you're living in right now, you know, like have the same size house, live in a similar neighborhood, drive the same kind of car that you're driving, we sat down and did calculations. And guess what? It turned out that it's cheaper to live here. And I was very shocked.
Why were you shocked?
I mean, I was shocked, you know, because we've always thought that, you know, like the cost of living here in the US is higher. But we went, you know, like we went pound for pound.
I don't know who you checked with, but okay, I'm glad you did that calculation with mom.
No, you know, and of course there's a lot of cheaper parts to live in Kenya.
Correct.
But now my mom was telling me if you want to live
because you're doing
at the same
doing
standard.
dollar for dollar or shilling for shilling, whichever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. And then another thing that a lot of people who want to move to Kenya don't factor in is if you have kids here, the education is free, it's catered for. But you go back to Kenya and you want to take your kids to the same
something equivalent
to the same something equivalent to what they were getting here.
Yes.
Washeke, I don't know that Washeke is here today. Washeke has experience with that.
I can tell you for free.
That's very expensive.
My sister, her kid goes to private school here. It's cheaper for her to pay fees here than to pay fees in Kenya for the same level of education.
Now, you see, and here there's one thing that Esther Molusa is saying. Esther is saying Western economies are built on double incomes. It's very hard to survive on a single income in the free world. The Kenyan situation is hopeless today. And he's saying people should get and stay married. It helps. But you see, the good thing about here, whether you're married or single, there's always options. There's always options.
And there's also help you can actually get
Yeah.
Yes.
from wherever jurisdictions you live
the
in,
government.
based upon your income and so on and so forth. And somehow, our tax shillings or dollars go
Yeah.
towards those particular things to help those who are, quote unquote, at a lesser tier. Whether it's help with your electric bill, whether it's help with food, whether it's help with all sorts of different things. Those are things and structures that we just don't have for the Kenyan society.
Yeah,
They just don't
unfortunately.
exist.
Now, Ruth. Okay, Mika.
So quick, what I'll say with that. So what you're saying is that when most people compare moving back home, they will maybe compare cost of housing, cost of food, cost of this. But the one thing they never compare is the cost of quality of life, right? If you want to have a parallel quality of life that you're having right now and you're moving back home, that is where the cost is going to come in.
Yeah,
You want to have the same kind of medical coverage. You want to have the same
absolutely
kind of access to services. You want to have the same kind of convenience. Convenience is something that costs. Most people don't realize that, but it's something that costs.
Even shopping, go buy a pair of jeans.
Yes. So when you want the quality of life, you want the quality of life whereby when you take your car to be fixed, au ipeleke kwa Njoro, unaipeleka kwa dealership, inafanya kila kitu quality parts inageuza.
Itaolewa hizo nini zenyu za Mercedes.
That's where the cost is going to go up.
Okay.
So,
all right. Sawa. I want to come to Ruth. And maybe as we wrap up now, because I know people want to talk about rugby, maybe with your experience in Kenya the last, I don't know that to say few weeks or few months, it felt like such a long time.
She was
time.
there
Yeah.
for 3 months.
Yeah.
Let her tell the truth.
Yeah. What are maybe some salient points, even within these conversations that we're having as diasporans, that maybe we might be missing, or some blind spots regarding people's sentiments back home? Because we are actually here very worried. But is there maybe something that in these conversations that we have out here as diasporans that we might be missing?
I think the biggest thing I that was glaring for me is the income inequality. So there's the thing that is uniting everybody in terms of like hakuna pesa, it's hard, whatever. But even within that, the income inequalities, like I would hang out with some people and I'm like, oh, you guys don't worry too much about things, And then I hang out with people who are like, literally anything you give them makes their day in terms of food and stuff. And I think sometimes I go home and be like so confused, like, am I in the same country, right? And my sister is famously telling me like kuna inja from Thika Road that divides wenye inchi na wananchi. I think when you talk to people, depending on who you're talking with, you might have a different view of Kenya. But like just generally hakuna pesa, but if people's income is lower, it's even bad than we think it is.
Let's hear from Itela about this, because this is something that confuses us sometimes, because
Awu ni Sonko, so how can you tell us? Oh, sorry.
No, but Nisonko, but he's in touch with the ground. That's how change
We hope so.
Actually,
We hope
you're
so.
right. Kuna
Yeah.
story ingine alitupea pale karibu na border.
Yes.
Vile alipiga masafaring around COVID.
No, he's in touch. He's in touch with the ground. He's in touch with the ground.
Wacha ongee.
Unasema alijua ajui.
Yeah.
It's called
He
the
found out
ability.
the hard way.
It's called the
No, but Hila, there's this confusion that we get sometimes. Like there was a forum, like back when, like I was driving, and I still have my Hyundai Sonata, like I love that car to death. But there was a time I mentioned it, and someone akaniuliza Kenya like, kwani kuna shida gani? I was like, it's normal, like it's normal to drive such a car. Yeah. Like there's nothing wrong.
Ati gari gani Hyundai?
Yeah.
Hyundai.
Hyundai.
Bwana.
Yeah,
Hyundai.
Oh, Paul, my bad.
Yeah.
Previously known as Hyundai.
Yeah.
I had that confusion, by the way.
Yeah, so me, I was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving such a car. I mean, mtu alikuwa na drive Lexus nini, someone who and like even here, like even people who are wealthy, it's normal to see them driving a normal
It's
car.
a beat-up car
It's
sometimes.
nothing unusual. So I think the part that gets us confused sometimes is that there's all these issues that we're hearing in Kenya, but then it seems like there's another side of Kenya where people are living a soft life, they're living large, they're just balling out of control, you know, like when you see the houses they're living in, the kind of places they're going to, and nini. So is there, I mean, like, is there maybe like some hustle that maybe some Kenyans don't know about? Because it seems like there's some people who are doing quite well, quite a number of people.
First and foremost, let's try and create a certain level of objectivity and have a clear understanding of what's really happening. If you look in every year, anytime the inflation is all about, you know, about its second digits, that's when people go around and start saying the cost is moving on. But if you look at it sequentially, each and every year it's been between 3 to 5%. If you look at those who are formally employment, your employer will either match the rate of inflation or probably go and give you an adjustment that is 1 percentage point less. That basically simply means that over a period of time, you're earning less.
Yeah.
You're basically getting an eroded value. You could actually you could end up having a 4% increment on your monthly salary, but if the actual inflation is 5%, your value on what you actually get in your pocket compared to last year is less, number one.
Yes.
And so on an ethical front, there's got to be a very clear discussion that if you're actually going to go around and give someone an increment, it's got to be above the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
That's not been happening in
It has
Kenya.
to be by law.
Precisely. It's not happening in Kenya for probably close to 2 decades. So whereas someone would probably have been in employment for 20 years, the fact that the rate of inflation is always ahead of your increment, it means that
You're earning
sequentially,
less.
precisely.
Yeah.
That's the first bit. Let's get that on a clear front. Very few guys would actually go around and ensure that they can actually buttress that particular risk, but by and large, probably 90-95% of fellows who actually, you know, are within the mix do not get that benefit. That's the first one. The second bit, and I recall back when we were in high school, we'd be told that, you know, when you go to the States, or if you have to go to the States, be very careful. Everyone there is on credit card debt. It's a death trap and whatnot. The same sort of things we used to be told about people in the US and the UK
Happening
is
in
now
Kenya.
happening in Kenya.
Fuliza.
Yes, there is Fuliza. There is a loan for
Tala.
this and a loan for that. There is Tala. There is a Shylock and whatnot. And by the time, you basically gambling, sports pesa, by the time you actually end up receiving what is due to you, you already owe probably close to 1.5 of that, which is actually a bigger societal issue. We need to be able to go and actually structure the conversation.
And the debt collector calls your pastor.
Your pastor, your wife, your wife's neighbor, your pastor's, everyone will know. you know.
Yeah.
So there are two things. One, even in scenarios where you're trying to go in and do the adjustment, you know, it's not at that same rate. Number two, people are living at it. And the unemployment, people go and report it at 40-45%. I think the unemployment in
higher.
Kenya is probably
higher.
80%.
Yeah, it's higher.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is.
I agree with
It's
that.
higher.
Yes.
Anecdotally, if you just look at your family and people, it's
yes.
higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certain everyone here probably has 5 to 6 relatives who are highly qualified, who have not had anything to do for maybe 3, 5, in some instances 10 years. Already.
Yes, absolutely.
10. It's about
Yes.
10 years on
Yes.
average.
The people give up on employment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Na bado tunawasaidia na wale, and those same ones of 10 years who don't have a job, wako na watoto ambayo tunasaidia wanaenda shule wanamaliza na bado wao pia hawana kazi.
Very,
So
very
ni
sad.
nyumba ya watu hawana kazi,
It becomes generational.
Yes.
lakini wote wamesoma.
Wamesoma.
So there's a bigger conversation. I mean, we talk about the finance bill. We're looking at how to go and ensure that entrepreneurs can actually thrive, people can get opportunities. But if we do not go around and unlock the value to go and allow people to then expand and get to different horizons, this is going to be a situation that's going to be compounded, unfortunately.
Okay, and at some point, you know, things are gonna fall apart. But now, Ruth, you know, like as we wrap, or Uno, you had something you
So
wanted to add.
no, it's
Yeah.
somebody's asking a question, but I was told, hey, by the way, Mike Salimia Hila, we played rugby together. Ask him what it was like running for office, and does he think he do it again? This is Keria Steve Okoth. I also ask him, does he think that the current regime cares about the common mananchi, ama is just a ruse to get and stay in power?
Okothe, number 8. How was it? Let's just say there is absolutely no school in this world that will teach you what you learn on the campaign trail. No corporate that will actually go around and teach you what you learn on the campaign trail. The one thing I actually had to really quickly realize is that if you want to go around and serve people, you've got to be able to be honest. Unfortunately, it also comes with the fact that you'll meet very many watapeli. You'll grow something called a bullshitometer. Within 10 seconds of someone speaking to you, you'll just see dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign. You say, Nyoe peke. You've got to be able to actually understand that you've got to put yourself in a situation where iron will sharpen iron. Don't sit with fellows who basically go around and give lies to you. But at the end of it all, a very humbling experience. The votes that I got, which were more than Ajakoya's, I appreciate them. Finishing second was also definitely not something that I took in as a mean feat, especially since I got to the race only 3 months left. Will I be back? Only God will know. Or only God knows. I do not know yet. Only God knows. I had my learnings. I'm back in corporate. I thank everyone who actually gave me the leap of faith, and I learned my lessons.
Okay, all right.
Otivo umesikia?
Haya.
Haya, sawa.
Ruth.
Let me read the comments. Slay's question earlier was for how will Kenya make a comeback, was for rugby. So you can answer that during the rugby section.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And then Stephen Batty says, I'm here. Ruth is here. Hi, Stephen. I used to want to earn 35,000 back in year 2000, and I was bowling. Esther says, Western economies are built on double incomes. It's very hard to survive on a single income in the so free world. The Kenyan situation is hopeless today. People should get married, should get and stay married. It helps. Man, if the marriages are good, because that's another situation.
Wait, please.
No, I saw that.
Please.
That was
Please.
crazy.
Conversation for another day.
For another day. We
Yeah.
need to do.
Okay, are we talking about Kenya? Or are we talking about
Kenya. We need a topic. We need a topic for marriages, economic marriages.
No, you know when the economy is
Just
bad, it
say-
also affects marriages in different ways.
Before and after. But
Yeah, but
story for another
gets
day.
cheaper during bad
Story
economies. Oh,
for
sorry.
another day, because if the marriage is good, yeah, we do need people need to stay married. But if it's not, please just.
And husbands start chewing jabba.
Samulusa, I'm curious to see if marriage or can we stay rates will go up in Kenya. I think that's based on the economy. I know I will not be living the same as I live here. This is Keza, but that's what I'm looking for. Simplicity. You can't go to Kenya to work a job. You gotta go with cash, with dollar signs, and a business. It's funny, I say it differently. I would take Kenya over Canada. Interesting. Esther, taxation favors the married with kids in the US. True, 100%. Stephen Batty, actually looking at it, one earning family member saves you more in the US. Depends on how much you're earning, by the way. Please look carefully at the tax benefits. There is a study there that shows it is not beneficial for two-income family, but I've seen documentation. That is, if you're earning the same amount of money, it is not good. If it's working, but if somebody is earning way higher than the other one, it works.
Yeah, so real quick, like with black couples, the reason why a lot of blacks don't benefit so much from that marriage benefit is because most of the time the husband and the wife, they're earning almost the same amount.
Yeah.
Now, these benefits become higher when there's one person who's earning much higher than the other person. And that's a situation with whites, and that's why they get more benefit. Anyway, Ruth.
Yeah. Emily says deals, tenders, internet, and wash. I don't remember what we were talking about at that point. One of my partners makes 400 bob a day. That is
400 bob a day, that's 2,000 a week. That's
just even like 400 bob. That's not even a half a dollar.
Yeah, that's called mtu wa mkono. Mtu wa kazi wa mkono.
KYM.
no, that's like $3 and something. 400 bob is
A KYM
$3.
probably even
$3
makes more.
actually.
Yeah,
Or $3. Sorry.
yeah.
I was like,
With the current exchange rate,
really
$3.
downplaying the shilling.
$3.
Yeah.
Then you open a car wash or beauty parlor for front office. Oh, this is the deals, tenders, internet, and wash.
Yeah.
Then you open
How
a
do
car
guys
wash.
survive in Kenya?
It's,
Yeah.
it's
I think that was the question. How are guys surviving? Yeah.
people survive deals,
Yeah.
tenders,
you open
internet,
all
wash,
as a front,
wash.
yeah.
Yeah, you have alternate forms of income.
Yeah.
Or multiple streams of income.
But it's
Laundromat.
wash, but then you have a front.
Because some of those stores, like in the hub, Izima malls, some of those stores don't make sense. You're looking at and you're thinking they're paying rent X amount. This doesn't make
wacha
sense.
kutaja malls azifanye job.
And their kayaks with vehicles, high heavy duty engines that have been there for 2 years.
Yes, V8.
No, but there's a
don't
lot of car lots
vacant-
on Ngong Road that never sell cars.
Vacant houses, apartments.
Emily, that's
Vacant
true.
houses. Nyingi
Apartment
sana.
buildings.
Oh,
buildings.
we need to talk about Savo. Sorry for another day. Emily, you have a really good question here. The Kenyan higher education system needs to be revamped. What technology has JKUAT come up with?
What technology?
What technology has JKUAT come up with? 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 What technology has JKUAT come up with
That's an interesting topic. Like research. I don't know how much research
R&D is very
done.
interesting in Kenya. It's
Yeah.
very low, very low. That's a to see. Okay, we'll come back to you later. Slay would like to know what you learned on the campaign trail, and then research and technology should be a concentration of these universities. I agree with you, Emily.
Yeah.
So can you address the last question, the last statement, and what you learned on the campaign trail?
So the biggest, and I'm really trying to be very diplomatic about this answer.
Actually, no one is watching.
No, I mean, first and foremost, I am still a leader, and I love everyone who, first and foremost, gets into put up their hands to run for an electoral role. The one thing that is quite sad is that when you look at the Kenyan voter, and you're not talking about profiling anyone who's either a suburban voter or a rural voter. The Kenyan voter does not necessarily care about what plans you have to improve their lives during the campaign trail. All they want and care for that moment in time is ukimaliza kuongea nayo kizungu yote next unatoa charge.
Kakitu.
Kakeru.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, it is a person who potentially comes with the biggest sacks of resources. I'm not saying money.
Maize.
Some guys would probably come with maize, others come with lessons and whatnot, who will be able to convince a person. So the ability for them to go around and engage someone on the ability to execute leadership is, this one came around with a pack of maize, this one came with 2 packs of maize. This one gave me a djembe, this one gave me 3 djembes, or that less so. So the sort of ability to have that discourse, to be able to interrogate the ability of leader that you require for any particular role becomes negated, because it's about the here and now. And of course, because of the level of desperation, it's who actually has the ability to make me feel better, not by you telling me what I want to hear, but by you living my household with a certain level of happiness as it was in the past. And you could probably compare it with, if someone came around with a Ferrari and another one came out with a mountain bike, who has a higher chance of being able to tell Beyonce, can I talk to you for a second? I bet it'll be the Ferrari person. So unfortunately, we've not been able to actually understand the value of leadership, to be able to interrogate someone's ability to execute. And that's why with 7 sacks of resources in whatever, we're not talking about just money, could even be seeds and whatnot. That's all you require to go around and induce and seduce a Kenyan voter, which, to be honest, is quite it's quite sad. I talk to people now and they say, in retrospect, of course, they'll tell you this because they want to make you, some of them probably mean it, others are just trying to make you feel better. They say, should have actually given you a chance. And I say, no, at this moment in time, I think it was already ordained. I'm very strong spiritually. And I was running against a very seasoned politician. I mean, this was Okiya Omtata's. Yes, this is Okiya Omtata's 4th election. He ran in 2013.
Yeah, he's lost a couple of elections. Yeah.
He ran in 2013 for Senator of Nairobi, finished 6th. In 2017, he ran for Senator of Busia, finished 2nd to Amos Wako. Actually, this was his 3rd election. So he ran, and I mean, he finished 1st. I came on 2nd, and who knows? So I always, I retain a very strong spiritual, sense and understanding that I was there for a reason. I think I've learned my lessons. God managed to open up doors. I got back into the private sector. So I'm trying to actually understand other learnings that I got during the campaign trail, what is potentially going to unlock value for me in the next set of years within the corporate bit. Because I can tell you they have a bullshitometer. Within the first 5-10 seconds of someone talking to me, I can tell whether they're genuine or not.
Yeah.
And I can see that. And
you didn't have that before?
It wasn't, it's so refined.
I don't think it was refined. I don't think he had it.
It is so refined.
Okay.
It is so refined. You can actually tell if someone is bullshitting you. It's become much more refined. I have become much more perceptive, and I think maybe God needed me to get to that particular season so that he could refine me. Whether he wants to take me to the same particular front or whether he wants me to run for presidency, or I don't know.
But Itela, one thing that I'm going to tell you now that you have experience, and I always have a lot of respect for people who've gone through that experience because it is so grueling. I talked to Bonnie, I talked to a lot of different personalities who we kind of liked, and we saw like maybe they might be able to bring some kind of change. And these experiences they bring in that I think are very important. And I think it's important for these experiences to be shared because Omtata, for example, you said this was his 3rd time running, and this is when he succeeded. He didn't just go in there and cop out, after losing. I think it's important for more Okiyas, more Itelas, more people of that caliber to keep doing, because at some point, and it may not be the next election, it may not be the one after, at some point I believe that they will be able to overpower, like the kind of traditional politician who's just giving people unga or giving people lesos and that kind of thing.
So the namkate.
Yeah, because the general idea right now is for people like you to think that this is impossible. Just give up. Don't go back there again. Because if we all decide that we are not doing it because it's a very dirty game, we are all still going to be affected, despite the fact that we have our own little nice jobs that we are doing. But now the country is getting worse. People who could support themselves can no longer support themselves. So I think it was a good thing that you went ahead and ran for Busia County Senate. And it's very important for even those of you who, ran and lost, to form these groups and just to be able to enlighten other people, other good people who are coming in for the first time, to just understand, these are the mistakes that you should not make. Maybe you can do this differently here, and get something out of it. I think that's very, very important for the sake of the future of our country.
No, I agree, and I think the one thing I will tell anyone, because I've seen people getting depressed right after the election. I know of 3 people who've not left their houses since August. Number one, do not be lied to that you need to go around and mortgage anything you own or sell any property.
Don't take loans.
Don't take any loans, etc. I have seen people literally on the brink of depression. Some fellows have never left. Luckily, I did not get inspired to have that whiff of insanity. I managed to
you didn't sell like a plotty or two or three?
I did not.
You didn't Fuliza.
I did not. Luckily, that was advice I was given up front. I can tell you, the people come around and tell you, sell this, and they came on. We know you have this, you could sell this.
Yeah.
But someone I said, what? Anytime actually, ran short of resources, I couldn't actually get funds to get fuel to take a vehicle somewhere. I'd say, what? I need to rest. I'd take 3 or 4 days off that. Something would happen. A friend would call me and tell me, I hear you're not doing any activities. What do you need? I'm like, no, it's nothing much. Like, okay, what do you need to actually run 2 or 3 days? This is a month. Say, fine, give us 2 or 3 or 4 days. They'll speak to other people. All of a sudden, you'll see something coming on through, and all of a sudden tell guys, okay, we cannot fuel the vehicles, move on through.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it was basically as it comes. And I think it also learned, it also got me to learn how to live as a minimalist, You wake up in the morning, you have 3,000 shillings on your M-Pesa. There's a group of about 50 people in there who just say, we just want to come around and find out how you're doing. You go around and understand that you can also boil mahindi and give strungi, and you sit with people. You learn to actually work with the resources that you have become. Yes. You become very creative.
Okay. Hakuna story ya kupika pilau.
Yes.
I'm not faulting people who take loans or whatever. I mean, Hilary Clinton loaned a campaign 5 million.
No, but she took a loan from herself.
But what I'm trying to say is she loaned.
But
I know.
That's Teto. We don't know what
I
the
know.
campaign.
I'm just saying.
That's the money she has. That's money from her.
I know that.
The left pocket to the right pocket.
What I'm trying to say is, if she did that, I can see why somebody who doesn't actually have anything would try to get a loan somewhere, because they believe if I become something,
not in Kenya,
it will help.
But I think
campaign financing in Kenya
but I
is
think
different.
what Hilary is saying is that some of these people who are like selling their plotties are you're selling your lifeline.
Yeah.
Like
know.
ni watu like wako
I'm just not faulting them. I'm just not faulting them for doing that.
I would.
It's not good. It's not a good advice to do.
It's basically bad business. What you're trying to say is bad business.
And then
do not go bankrupt in the name of chasing office, because even if you get that office, you will spend most of your time trying to get your money back.
Correct.
That's what people
and
do.
That's a bigger question. If someone sells land to be voted in, did they just do that because they love the people, or they expect that return to get back? And for me, in principle, that's what kept me off, because I did not want to go around and say that get my money back.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it means that even from the get-go, your intentions as you get into office are all off. They're all twisted.
Okay, now Ruth, as we wrap up, maybe how can diaspora be part of this conversation? About change in Kenya, about finance bill, about legislation. How can we be part of the conversation without appearing as noisemakers? Because sometimes we in the diaspora also tend to appear as noisemakers.
Yeah. Number one, I'll say educate yourself on that finance bill. And when you talk to your people in Kenya, listen to them, and offer your opinions. I mean, one thing I've learned not to do is tell people what to do, but just offer your opinion from an educated point of view. Like, not that nimesikia ni watu walikuwa nasema, have you read the bill yourself?
Yeah.
Do you know how it will affect people on the ground, and also you? Can I also say we're being affected, because if you're supporting people back home, you're gonna shell out more money.
Yeah.
If anything,
That 3% they pay on the housing fund, it's gonna come from your
It's gonna come
pocket.
from somewhere.
Yeah.
So educate yourself.
Can they all put their houses in my name?
Forget it. That's not happening, Omosh.
It's not
No,
gonna happen.
I'm just saying, because you remember the way we were explained for the Jamaican system, right?
Yes.
Like they sign up, there's a waiting list, blah blah blah, and you can even pass on your credits and points to the next generation if you want to. Let's say if the father has put the money in, but opts not to take it, you can give that over or sign your credits over to a child or
That's
a
right.
grandchild.
Yeah.
So that they get moved up, and because you had seniority in the list, and they get bumped up.
Yeah, but this system, those details are not there. It's just pay and then you wait. You wait what
Itakuja.
you'll see. Yeah, itakuja.
In a quam.
There are good things on the other side.
In a quam.
Yeah.
In a quam.
Ruth.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is educate yourself. Don't be noisemakers. Like, in terms of speaking for the sake of speaking, get to know what's in the bill, and also when you're talking to people, give your take. People may or may not listen, but give your take on it. But let it be an educated opinion.
Let it be an educated opinion, and that's part of the reason why, and I do get in trouble sometimes in different WhatsApp groups, because people sometimes share stuff, and then when you ask them a question, where is this information coming from? It was sent as received.
Wewe Ali,
Yeah.
ubaya yako ni kutaka facts. Kwani you think everything on WhatsApp people are nini? It's go hapa kwa studio. Wachaga you are testing people moyo.
That has gotten me in trouble in family groups na nini. And you see, the problem is that's how misinformation easily spreads. We are moving into an age of artificial intelligence. My biggest worry, if without artificial intelligence, with just screenshots, you can lie to so many people. So I'm now worried about the day when, the technology of someone creating a video of Itela saying something, whatever they want Itela to say.
They're doing that already, bro.
It's being done. It's being done, but the technology is not out there for just the average person. Right now, a lot of it's there. You guys are in tech.
Oh no.
No, you guys are in tech.
Yeah, ya kuweka nini kwa mdomo yako. Boss.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Okay, sorry.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Sorry.
I want you guys to listen to me. I'm talking of when I talk of the average person, I'm talking about people like our mothers. I'm talking about people
got it.
people who are not online, trying to, like the way it's so easy, like these WhatsApp screenshots. There was a time when it wasn't that easy. Before WhatsApp, it wasn't that easy. Even if you had some kind of information, it wasn't easy to spread it to a wide group of people.
What Kibaki used to call the Wanjiku in the street.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So that Wanjiku in the street is now when that gets to the Wanjiku in the street, that's when I'm really worried, and that's when things can go very wrong on a very large scale very fast. So I think that's where people need to come in with a point of knowledge, and it's okay to say I don't know. That's one thing that people sometimes don't realize. Ndakamjinga sema tu sijui. Kama umeulizwa swali ama in a conversation, there's no shame in that.
Can I also add, in the WhatsApp groups, if you see misinformation, please call it out. Because I've been in groups where I say that's not true. I literally have to jump and say that's not true. Because
the only
it'll be this, and I'm the only one. It could be the end of the world, doom news. And I'm like, and the UN did have what they will say what.
To me, I don't correct anybody. I don't let anybody watch a mtu abaki na ujinga yake. One thing I've come to realize is this.
But facts, stats, and data are always true. How you design to piece it together and interpret it is up to you. I might give you all the knowledge that you need and all the factual information that you want. But if you decide that you won't believe me, you believe Trump because Trump told you because you like him, siwezi kusaidia. So we are a world whereby, why are you worrying about other people?
If somebody really wants to get misinformed, it's their choice.
No, it's not, Mika. Can I need to push back on that for a bit, okay? So it's
let
for
me
you.
tell you something. Let me tell you something, Ruth. Between when you're in a room by yourself, and the thing and the most smart thing in that room is the device in your hand, you cannot be helped. So if you deliberately go to seek out misinformation, even if somebody came and gave you the right information, but because you and your affinity and your beliefs to that misinformation, how many times have you tried to correct somebody on something and you are factual and they try to argue with you because they Googled it somewhere?
Okay. Mika, I think you're talking about people who are just dead set on being right on the wrong things, right? I'm talking about genuine people who literally just think what they received on WhatsApp News Network is the right thing, right? They're very genuine, very this word is not innocent. I'm looking for something else. Innocent is the word I'm gonna go. Naive, that's the word I was looking for. They're very naive about things. I think it's okay to jump in and say, hey, don't believe that, that's not true, that's misinformation, right? But there are people who will never be, who I cannot name them right now, where like you're dead set on listening to propaganda.
Talibans.
Yeah, people call us woke Talibans. I'm not gonna correct you. You're already dead set on being wrong, on being right on wrong things.
But let me just get Mika to where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because
naive people, not people who just want to know.
Those people who are dead on believing what they want to believe, those are not the people we are worried about.
No, I'm not worried about that.
The people we are worried about,
the moderates.
The people we are worried about are the innocent people who see something and they run with it. I'll give an example. Remember that day, and this can happen to even the best amongst us.
Yeah.
Remember that day when there was something I think you shared on Adan Duale had said something. This was actually misinformation from a media house. They said that Aden Duale said something about women wearing hijabs. Totally misquoted him. Totally said something different.
Out of context.
Yeah. So the first thing, for me personally, because I'm a bit extra on this. The first thing when Ruth shared it, it came from a trusted source, which is Nation. So the first thing that when Ruth shared it and I read it, I was like, you know what? Let me go online and try to find the actual clip.
Where, when, how.
Yeah, of what exactly he said. And what did I do? I went and listened to the clip. Then I read, what Nation had wrote. And I was like, you know what? These things don't seem to align. So I just shared that clip. Now, and that was something religious, because religion is one area where you can really capture people very fast. So I shared, and I was like, everybody just listen to what he said. Compare. But now the problem is a lot of people are not going to get that opportunity to listen to that clip. And it's a lot of innocent people who get affected by misinformation. It's our mothers, it's people.
Those are the vulnerable
Yeah, those are the most vulnerable people. Nowadays, my mom, anything she receives on WhatsApp, ananitumia. Because ananitumia, you verify, ananiambia hana time, ananiambia you verify, and then tell me if this is true or not. And then the other thing is that sometimes the worst kind of misinformation, or the misinformation that goes viral, is one that comes from a trusted source. So these mistrusted sources create this information, they spread it out, they hope, because we know that you're a mistrusted person, but they hope you're gonna get it and you're gonna share it with someone else. So when it's a brother, an uncle sharing, then you're like, okay, this is someone I know, I trust, and that's how misinformation.
And they have no reason to lie to me.
And they'd have no reason to lie to me.
When Mark does what he does in a group that we're on.
Oh yeah, canceling people.
Before Mika chimes in, let me support you.
Ile baro ya black.
By force. It's 10 p.m.
Oh.
Okay, sawa. Yes.
Kinda.
Hold
on. Wrap up.
Yes, I want to say with that, this is it for the politics conversation. We'll shortly be getting into a conversation about the future of Kenyan rugby. And as you already know, our guest tonight, Hilary Itela, is a former director of the Kenya Rugby Union and also played club rugby in Kenya. But before we continue, I want to remind the audience that we shall do a quick review of Sautisol Madaraka Festival Tour. Ruth will be giving us a taste of her experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. or like I said, the good, the gooder, and the goodest? Ruth, real quick, what should we expect?
Wow, I'm just telling you, I've never been to a Sautisol concert. Matter of fact, I've never been to any Kenyan concert. So when I say it was good, I'll talk about that.
Ruth, where have you been?
Okay. I want to remind
another planet.
Okay. Sawa. I want to remind the listeners again, you're still tuned into the One Mic Show. We are not taking a break. We're going to move on straight to the rugby conversation with Hilary Itela. I don't know whether you want to do a sports drop.
I'll do the sports drop once you finish your clear. And with that...
okay. And with that said, mimi ni mtangazaji wenu Ali Badawi aka Mjukuu Masai. On to you, Uno Mike.
Sports and more sports in the One Mic Show.
All right, thank you, Mike. As in, the man doesn't need another introduction, but I'll still do another introduction. And this time, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the One Mic Show sports segment, where today we are blessed with the attendance of Kenya Rugby Union Director, Mr. Hilary Itela.
Yeah, and before we continue, Mika, real quick, pole kukuka.
Nimeona ametoka kidogo.
Okay,
just do the intro. And So,
yes.
As in, I was saying, former Kenya Rugby Union Director, Hilary Itela. Hilary, who is somebody who has been in the rugby world for quite some time, is somebody who started playing rugby in high school. From high school, he went to university in UN, played UN, then he moved on to Nondi, moved on to becoming a coach, and then moved on into the administration of rugby. We want to see today have a discussion with him about rugby, but before he comes back, I just want to give a special recognition. This is history that happened today, and it's... So I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but I've never seen an athlete break 2 world records in 2 different races in a span of 8 days. Faith Kipyegon of Kenya, on July 2nd, broke a world record. It was for the 5,000 meters only, right?
Yes, it was 5,000. This recent one was 5,000 meters.
That one was 1,500.
The previous one was 1,500.
1,500. They broke the world record for the 1,500 meters on July 2nd, and then earlier on this evening, she broke the record of the 5,000 meters race. And as I said, I just want to give a special recognition to Faith Kipyegon for that, because I know Ali, you're a big fan of athletics.
Yes.
Let me know, have you ever seen somebody do this?
In
such a span of time?
Like this, I don't think this has ever been done before. And even a lot of, like pundits were actually questioning, why she's running a 5,000 meter race, like just a few days after 1,500 meters race. This is not even in terms of breaking a world record. It's just in terms of, like the dynamics of preparation, recovery, and everything. So there was a lot of questioning on that. And I, naturally also questioned that too. And I was just excited that she had broken the 1,500 meter record. So my thinking is that she's just testing herself out on 5,000 meters. Because in that same race, the world record holder, the Ethiopian Gide, was also running, like in that race. So to me, I just felt like maybe she's just going to scope herself out. I was giving her a couple of years before she's able to catch up. But I think Faith Kipyegon is living her moment. She's been running for a very long time. Like she's not new. She's been doing this for a while. And this was a shocker. Like the 1,500 meters, that was no shock. That was coming. But the 5,000 meters became a shocker. In fact, like when you looked at the race, towards the last laps, and you're seeing there's this new technology now they have of that light that shows where the world record is. And I'm like, wow, she's keeping up with the world record holder at the world record pace. She's gonna flame out in the last lap or last 2 laps. That was my thinking. But she just never left. She was running in very smooth strides. She wasn't showing any struggle. And this is one of those magical moments where we should be very proud of saying we actually lived to see this. Because this will be written about and it will be talked about for decades, maybe even for centuries to come. Congratulations, Faith Kipyegon. Mika.
Uno, I want to see if Uno has anything to say to this.
No. I mean, I'm with Ali on this one. You know, in fact, when first you're like 1500, okay, then these games, bronze games, whatever they're called, you're like
Diamond
League.
Yeah.
So you're waiting. You're like, okay, you're thinking, this is gonna be piece of cake, but what? Like even the 1500, it was actually one of those where people are saying, you guys, she did this. They're like, so you go back. Then you watch her run. Then the tracker, the green one.
Yeah. The one that tracks the world record.
The world record.
Yeah.
Ameiwacha nyuma.
Yeah.
Comfortably.
And she's gone.
And she's
Imeenda. Yeah.
Imeenda. So I think again, these are situations where we our sports personalities and our people always do us proud, but I don't think we really do right by them.
And Mika, one thing that I'd love to see, like in athletics Kenya, I mean, we've been winning all these gold medals for so many years. I'd love to see, the way the English Premier League, like if you're tier 2 or tier 3 talent, there's still places that you can go and actually make money. You can play in a lower division. And of course, you're not going to make as much money as people playing in the Premier League, but you can make some kind of money. You can earn some kind of living. So I'd like to see those tier 2, because a tier 2 athlete in Kenya is a world-class athlete in another country.
Yes.
I remember there was a time when David Rudisha was saying in the Olympics, they only allowed 3 marathon runners. Yet in Kenya, you have more than 800, 900 people who have attained that Olympic time. But
Olympic speed.
Yes, who have attained that Olympic speed, but you can only select 3. So even from the elite runners, because the elite runners, like there are so many. Weko kama 100 ama sijui kwa ngapi. There are so many. Even from those elite runners, now you have to select who has won, like my Boston Marathon, who has won my Chicago Marathon. It's such a difficult headache to select because you have people who are running at a very high level and you can only select 3 to go to the Olympics. So for me, I'd love to see running clubs. I'd love to see places. I know there's the police, and there's these other places of employment where they can go. But I'd love to see, clubs where specifically people go, such that hata kama hauko Olympics, hata kama haumeki hizo ma Diamond League, but there's a place where you could be running and you could be earning some money, because this is and this is just where we need to be. Uno.
Now, I was going to read a comment here from Greg Hazlett. This is part of the sports discussion. He says, take some of these tax receipts to support Kenya's top athletes teams that represent on the world stage. Build promised stadiums, venues to support local economic development.
Okay. Aya, Mika. Na Hila amerudi sasa.
Yeah, Hila is back in the fold.
And just on that same talk of where we are on the athletics, I also want to recognize our very own Ferdinand Omanyala. Omanyala came second in the 100 meters, and Noah Lyles, who's the world 200 meters champion, beat him by 0.01 seconds.
Was that a one? Yeah, 0.01. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Photo finish.
It was
a photo finish.
Yeah. Did Omanyala lean forward? I didn't watch it.
No.
Yeah, somebody needs to change that for him and tell him that you need to lean forward. That's the difference between winning and not.
Yeah, because these differences are
very
small.
But then unajua Omoch kuna watu lean forward slow down.
Akimaliza si anaenda kana hivyo aende na kisogo. Ama.
Okay. Yeah, because mentally just how your brain coordinates. So you bend unajipata slow down.
No. Yeah. I get it.
And I think also tall people tend to have an advantage, like in those close finishes. Tall people tend to have an advantage, and Emily here is saying, why are former athletes not representing our people in the world stage as managers or agents? And this is what I was talking about. Interestingly
Former
enough,
athletes?
interestingly enough, the coach, I think Kipchoge's coach is a Kenyan, which is very rare at that level. So I think it's important when we look at this whole ecosystem that supports these athletes, we need to figure out a way how to feed Kenyans in there.
Moja,
Yeah.
one thing, and I'm going to use this to actually bring in Hilary to this discussion, because the one thing that most people don't realize, and it's actually the one thing that's killing the creative industries too, it's the same thing in the sports industry, is that a lot of former players don't learn the business of the sports they're in, right? There are a lot of former players who have played professionally in Kenya who can turn around and become coaches, they can become physio, they can become agents, they can go into the leadership courses that move around with sports and continue the business of sports. I think the only person who we saw who really went and did the business of sports from the Magical Sevens team is Nani and Outrage Defiance. The only person who can say that we've seen has gone and actually built himself in the management of sports. And Hila, I know you're somebody who's corporate minded and you have that sporting ability too. And also as being a director of the KRU, and that is why I said instead of coming just gung-ho and fighting with Mike and Gependa, what I wanted was for you to give us a walkthrough of how things didn't work out or things crumbled. We, from the outside, all we saw was usually chaos during elections, allegations of bought votes, and then allegation of corruption. This one is not paying, people not being paid. There was never a clear indication of what is happening, if they're funds in the union, if they're not funds in the union.
Coaches
Are there
got
sponsors
fired.
who are coming for the team? They're not sponsored for the team. How was the appointment of the coaches? Why were some coaches replaced after having a successful season? It also came down to now player selections being based on because certain teams voted for certain officials, they're going to have a bulk of player selection. So all these are things that we've had from various sources, various people talking, various people who, as we said, we don't know if it's miscommunication or what, but somebody will say they're verified because they have some little, they seem to have some little influence in the rugby world. So this is for the first time we're getting somebody who has been there as a player, somebody who has coached, and somebody who has been in the administrative side of it.
All right. Thank you for that. So I was on the board of the Kenya Rugby Union from March 2018 till right before the election, because I was informed that it would be a conflict of interest. So right before the election, I had to step down on my duty. So for the 4 years, give or take 2 or 3 months, I think my takeout was that there were 3 major things that anyone who's potentially still in office or anyone who's still within the realm that needs to go around and take note of. And the first one talks towards the process of being able to go around and vet anyone who actually wants to come in to be a director of the Kenya Rugby Union, the intentions that drive him towards that, the process towards anyone who actually wants to come in and become a coach for any of those particular teams, the intentions and what they intend to execute, and similarly as well the process of trying to go around and select the players. And I'll break that down further. The next one I talk towards performance. And performance talks towards, are we looking at a culture of high performance as a flash in the pan or for a long term? How do we plan? How do we go and look at our feeder system? It goes back and feeds into the process. And then the last bit, the priority. And the priority will just take me back to talk towards the process and the performance. If you're to look at any high-performing rugby nation, 15 aside is the code that is actually invested in. And 7s is ideally meant to be a feeder. Because it was relatively faster for us to get a level of success in the 7s code. We basically put the cart in front of the horse, over-invested into that. If you go and look at the Kenya Rugby Union book of accounts, and they're publicly available, if you go to Kenya Rugby Union website, go and download, you'll notice that close to 70 to 75% of any sort of expenditure in any particular year was solely for the sevens team. Very little piecemeal left for the 15-a-side team, very little left for the junior age grade teams to be able to move on through. And now being able to go around and align and tell fellows, if we are trying to go around and unlock the potential of rugby in this country, we need to go around and reset our priorities, became a tougher discussion because sevens quickly became our flagship product. It became the cash cow that could actually go around and potentially get sponsors to go around and piggyback from that and support 15s and whatnot. But COVID came in, we lost that particular bit because our priorities were actually off. Much as we actually had a 15 season that was still ongoing, no corporate sponsors saw any value in it. So it goes back again to the process, performance, and priorities. Now, we're talking about the sevens team. Sevens for the longest time was always a feeder system in the 70s, in the 80s. David Campese is known more for being an Australian winger than for being a sevens winger. And he actually won a couple of titles at the Hong Kong tournament in the 80s and the 90s. John Alomu is known more for his devastating ability to go around and literally wreak havoc in the 15 squad. But he was a very decent sevens player. Not so many people remember that. And I could go on and on. If you look at the current crop of the New Zealand players, Rico Ioane, devastating sevens player. Very few people remember as a sevens player. Adi Savea, the All Blacks captain, was also a sevens player. Very few people actually remember that. Unless you're a rugby person through and through, you'll actually remember Adi Savea for his performance in the last test match of the All Blacks, rather than when he actually played for New Zealand Sevens maybe 10, 11 years ago. We are very naturally athletic. We got a chance to move on through, played in the Commonwealth Games a couple of times in the early 2000s, get into the Rugby World Cup, and wow, we get to the semi-final, and all of a sudden people start saying, okay, this is where we should actually be able to move on through. At that point, there was a lot of transitions in Kenya Rugby, and I think I don't go to the historical bit, but we all know what happened between 2005 till 2013, where all of a sudden there were reserves that have been kept in the Safari Sevens for about 20 years. New chairman comes on board, says he's going to focus more on sevens, decides to literally throw the gauntlet, brings in Mike Friday, brings in Paul Trow thereafter. All of a sudden, what had actually been kept as a reserve for over 20 years has been exhausted. But now what we'd actually done is, at that point in time, we had actually created the illusion that we had the ability to sustain the program. But what not so many people knew is that any monies that were potentially being invested into the Kenyan Sevens program between 2012 and perhaps maybe 2016, 2017 was monies that had been placed in as a reserve from collections in the Safari Sevens tournament since its inception 1996.
Wow.
So there was a reserve, pretty hefty reserve that had actually been kept on through.
So you're saying like the gate collections, things like that from that tournament? Is it what was it? Was it Tusker Sevens? No,
Tusker Safari Sevens.
Safari Sevens. So those sorts of income that came from tournaments like that.
So the Tusker Safari Sevens was actually never run by the Kenya Rugby Union. It used to be run by the Rugby Patron Society. And they set up a different account. They had set up a different operating structure whereby they would do the invitation. If there was any cost to bring in the teams, they'd actually take that responsibility. They'd be responsible to manage the gate. At the end of the tournament, their responsibility was to pay out any debts that needed to be done. Then ask Kenya Rugby Union, what do you require to actually, input on development activities this year? Say 2 or 3 million shillings are given that, then the rest would keep in a reserve. So over a period of time from 1996 till about maybe 2012, 2013, you can imagine the reserves that have been kept up. I think
because those gate sales.
So there was quite a chunk of change in there.
Those gate sales were
precisely. And there was absolutely no year that there was ever any complaint by any supplier of non-payment. So they were running a pretty lean shop. So of course, in our own particular ability to try and chest thumb for success, typical Kenyan way, we decided we need to ensure that everything is run by Kenya Rugby Union. So of course, the Rugby Patron Society, they're a custodial sort of organization. I said, fine, we've run this tournament for the last 17, 16 years. You guys are actually saying that you're ready to run it, well and good. We'll hand over the monies.
Is that the point when it moved from RFUEA to Nyayo Stadium?
Correct.
Okay.
Because they said we have big ambitions for this particular tournament. We want to go around and grow the scale and whatnot. We're ready to move on through. They said fine. Handed over the responsibility to Kenya Rugby Union from the Rugby Patron Society. I mean, right through that entire time, I used to be part and parcel of the organizing committee of the Safari Sevens from about 2003, 2002.
Yeah.
So I'm talking from a position of not, curtailing.
Not hearsay.
Not hearsay. I
From
was
knowledge.
actually there. I'm
Yeah.
actually speaking
Not
from
not
knowledge.
WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
Not WhatsApp.
Not screenshots.
Not screenshots.
Ah, okay.
So
course.
yeye ndiye alikuwa amepokea pesa na akaenda akaweka kwa akiba.
So of course, the first thing that happens once you actually change the button from the rugby patrons into a different organization is that anyone who has institutional memory is told, step onto the side. So
Yeah. Kaa
it's
kando, yeah.
okay. And I mean, at that time, I thought that I'd also done enough. But
Sure.
the tournament gets into Nyayo Stadium, better, environment, bigger crowds.
Yeah.
You don't have the typical sort of squashy environment. I have nothing against Kenya Harlequins, but that ground, of course, is quite small and it can grow bigger.
Yeah.
Then you get in 30, 40,000 fellows.
Where watu wa Queens wanasikia.
Sawa,
Go
sawa
ahead.
tu.
Queen cakes. Oh, sorry.
So, of course, now you then go around and get the tournament in a bigger area. You end up getting, expected higher numbers, but the costs that were then being incurred from using Nyayo Stadium or Kasarani as opposed to RFU were a bit outrageous.
Okay.
Because you can imagine, you now end up literally halting the entire city of Nairobi, especially where Nyayo is concerned.
Yes.
So you need to get X number of traffic policemen, which did not require RFU. You'd get X number of, APs or GSUs, which did not require RFU because of the strategic.
So the
area that
logistics is now much more
Precisely.
expensive. Yeah.
Precisely. So you bring in the same quality of teams. You probably want to bring in a couple more higher quality teams because now, as opposed to filling in a 15,000 capacity ground, you're now looking at filling in a 30,000 one.
Yeah.
So instead of bringing Samoa this year as a cameo performance or Fiji, you're not bringing Samoa, Fiji, Spain, etc. So you can actually fill in the stadium.
Yeah.
So you're now throwing a lot more to try and generate interest and bring guys in. You're not in charge of your logistics costs. What does that happen? Of course, the sponsors are there to try and defray and make you go around and break even. But even they understand that there's a limit as to what they can actually come in and sponsor. And in there was a bit of friction because now a sponsor comes in and says, we've gone to a particular area. I'll not give you the exacts, but one of the sponsors was actually pet peeved in a tournament where they'd been given clear understanding and commitment that they would get X number of spots for branding opportunities. And during the tournament, one of the marketing fellows walks up to a board fellow and tells a board person that I require your commitment to deliver what I've actually promised my company because I'm now looking off. We are here, the tournament is on, I'm not getting the visibility. So for whatever reason, because of course there's pressure, logistics nightmare, this board fellow at the time goes around and talks to a very senior marketing person at one of the big organizations in Kenya, tells the fellow you can do whatever you want to do.
Wow. Okay. Utadu.
So
Yeah.
we have gone to a different venue. We're looking at growing the profile of this particular tournament. We have had a spat between a union
major
person,
one.
a union official, and a corporate executive. These guys talk.
No names mentioned.
No names mentioned.
Okay.
These guys talk. And all of a sudden, we then go around and bring in all these high-performing coaches. We're still struggling to break even. We're actually using all that had been placed into reserves on operational expenses,
Okay.
paying salaries and whatnot, creating a high level of expectation. Of course, the intention was that at some point in time, someone will see that this particular product adds value and come and pick it up. It doesn't happen. In between, we win Singapore, happy days and whatnot. But already we'd actually gone on through and we had actually poisoned the chalice with that altercation.
Okay.
Then comes 2018, Paris. So we've won Singapore, we've gone to Rio. We did not perhaps perform quite well, but this is now a season that we're looking like we're now knocking on the cusp of top 6, top 7. Last tournament, last tournament of the year, we've done London.
Sponsors
Yes.
covered.
Yes. So we're still trying
Oh,
to get
wale
sponsors.
walifunika.
Yes.
Let him tell
Walifunika.
his story.
Na masking tape.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're now on the cusp of now trying to go
You're
around
locked
and
in.
unlock value and say
Yeah.
fine, because this is now the point in time where we'd already exhausted that reserve. We had done our dalliance with Mike Friday pulled through. Honestly, couldn't afford any foreign coach. Fortunately, in typical Kenyan fashion, we go and may God rest his soul in peace, go to Benjamin Naimba and tell him, boss, can you hack this? Of course, Benja loved Kenya Rugby. So like, niko tayari nitarudi.
Yeah.
Benja was a soldier.
Yeah.
Tumerudi kwa mbachao
Yes,
baada ya
yes,
msala upitao
yes.
umepita.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Benja does his bit again after Singapore. They tell him, oh, he didn't do quite well during the Olympics. He's placed onto their side. They bring in a young coach, Ian Simiyu, Namkos. Okay, take this thing up front. But of course, now you're dealing with a crop of players who have seen the good.
Yeah.
They've actually been able to go around and see allowances and bonuses being paid, but very few of them actually realize that they were actually in a program that was not sustainable. You can't really call it a Ponzi scheme, because it's not really a Ponzi scheme. It was basically a reserve that had been built over close to a decade and a half, being used now on operational expenses as opposed to strategic development initiatives.
Wow. Okay.
To try and just create the hype, because we actually believe that this is a path we need to get into.
Yeah.
So a couple of sponsors have actually come on through. Commitments have been done. They had the Commonwealth Games in the same year, 2018, etc. And after the Commonwealth Games,
It was World Cup rugby at some point in
yes,
San
so
Francisco.
it was actually
Yeah.
Commonwealth Games, then London and
Francisco
Paris,
came later.
and then San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it was actually May, I think. May was Commonwealth Games. That was April, May. London and Paris was meant to be end of May and getting to June, and then San Francisco in July.
Yeah.
So of course there was a lot of pressure to get the monies in, because at that time we needed to ensure that guys can perform quite well. That was, I think, my second or the third month into the board, because I got into the board of Kenya Rugby Union in March 2018. So the devil works in very interesting ways. People go for the Commonwealth Games.
Is he still a liar at this point?
He's a liar.
But he's just there. He's
yeah.
just waiting for
He's
his
a liar.
moment.
He's a liar. He's waiting for his moment. Guys go for the Commonwealth Games. The allowances come in a bit late before the team leaves. They're all coming for a photo shoot. There's this potential, sponsor who wants to get a photo shoot. Just go and get the photos done, and then he'll process the payments.
Pesa
Pesa
Yeah.
itakuja. So of course they do the photos. They go to the UK, and a man can be very patient. But if you've now transposed a man's thinking from the sense that rugby is ideally meant to be semi-pro, but for the last 4 or 5 years I've been getting paid X amount every single month, and all of a sudden I've become a full-time rugby player. That's how I pay my rent.
Yeah.
That's how I actually go around and support my
Yes.
family's fees and everything.
Correct.
Because for about 4 or 5 years, they were basically doing nothing other than training 3 times in a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty
Okay.
much.
They were pros.
They actually were.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you see, the structure that was supporting that was a house of cards.
So it's
Because-
basically, like going into your retirement money to pay rent.
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely. And not buying a house.
Okay.
So that got exhausted.
And,
And
and there is no income that's replacing that
precisely.
retirement.
Because there are no sponsors.
You're going to retirement money to pay rent and you're 32 years
Precisely.
old.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyone wants to give you a job, you can tell them, you know what, you do you, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because
And-
they're gonna do.
Yes. Yeah.
You can
We're okay.
tell.
Because
Yeah.
for as long as I've stuff in my fridge today,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong. And because we've had so much success on the sevens front, we basically solely night. You can tell which village I come from.
Basically.
Basically,
Keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Think big.
Have you had a French speak? Okay, keep
basically.
T is for discipline and determination.
Apantofa.
Yes. So anyway, back to it. So at that point in time, we had stagnated on our ability to invest in development activities. Everything was focused on the sevens team.
Yeah.
So you can see we had a reserve that we're exhausting. We had a lull of about 3 to 4 years where we're not thinking about anything other than this love of our lives called the sevens team. We're basically putting blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yeah.
So already fundamentally on a structural front, on the process bit, you're already failing. On a performance front, you're actually focusing on one particular area, not on the other one. On a priority form, we actually have no priority to anything else other than the sevens team.
Yeah.
So fast forward. So these guys go to Australia. They take the photos, they go to the UK. Monies were meant to be sent within a couple of days. And indeed, the sponsor did actually send the money, go to the union account. Because of the fact that everything has been focused on the sevens team and the other responsibilities that did not come through. What happens when the money comes in? Overdraft.
split.
Ilikutana pesa na overdraft
Fuliza.
ilikutana hivi.
Fuliza.
Ehe.
Eh?
Na pesa na overdraft zikikutana hivi, overdraft inashinda.
There was no other. Unajua vile ukitumia mtu before tumie mtu doa nakwambia pana tuma kwa hii namba ingine.
Ehe.
Hii hapa itamezwa.
Sasa tulikuwa tumechelewa. Sasa vile pesa na overdraft zilikutana, kiendacho kwa mganga akirudi. The secretariat at the time decided, okay, in their wisdom, they can try and organize with the bank to now renew the overdraft. But the problem was that because the overdraft had actually just been closed on for that month, they needed to do the revaluation process. And of course, part of the process of revaluating another overdraft is that this one that has been closed out was pegged on the fact that kuna pesa nangoja hiyo pesa ikakuja. Sasa when you ask for another overdraft, ile pesa ulikuwa umengoja imekuja. Ni gani tena inakuja? Okay?
Kuna deal.
Yes.
Mwadhani.
Yes. So the guys
Kuna
go to
deal
London.
inaiva.
Yeah. The guys go to London and they ask, where's the money? So unfortunately, at that point in time,
There's no
level,
money.
yeah, a certain level of truth there have been, guys, actually the money has been paid. Okay? But ilikutana na mnyama inaitwa overdraft.
Yeah.
Na overdraft is a very aggressive fellow. But sasa ilichapa hivi za overdraft, we can get his brother another overdraft, but now give us another 1 week. The communication that was then given was that the sponsor has not paid.
My word.
Mwadhani.
Ndio wakafunika nini?
Yes. Ngoja kwanza.
sorry.
Si kila mtu ako na simu. Sponsor hajalipa. Sawa.
Okay. Tutampigia.
I mean, nowadays, if you actually tell me to go around and get Barack Obama's phone number, I think it will probably 3 or 4 calls. I'll get someone who has his number.
Someone who knows someone.
Someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
So, of course, these guys call and say, okay, but you, sponsor, we did a photo shoot. You guys said there's money that's meant to be coming.
And you
Bana,
want to
but
send.
you guys have told us there's no money.
Our
Sponsor
guys.
said, Bana, what do you mean there's no money?
I said.
I've sent the
And
money.
receipts.
In fact,
Okay.
let me do a screenshot.
Yes.
Yeah, screenshot.
Yes. Ka-ching.
Kwa WhatsApp.
Yes. So the guy say hapa wanatubeba kipetero kiyesu, wanatubeba kimadokodofia bila avocado, na hii ni kitu hatutakubali.
He
So
just
they say,
triggered me with Makodofia, but
it's a very yeah.
never mind.
Yeah. So the guy said, fine, we need to get audience. So they now call the person who's giving the information in Nairobi. Hey, boss, we need to get a chat. We need to get a chat, Bana. What do you mean, Bana? The sponsor has not paid. But the sponsor says he doesn't know there's anything outstanding. Of course, unajua sasa hapo, umeshikwa in your lie. So the guy's not picking the call. The guy said, guys, please, we need to talk. This is Wednesday before Paris. No one is actually talking. No one is escalating anything to the board. Thursday, hey boss, we need to talk. No one is talking about anything. No one is escalating. Friday, boss, we need to talk, eh? Nyinyi bana, fanyeni hivi. Mwende mcheze. Si ni Saturday na Sunday.
Yeah,
Kwani
tutamalizana Monday.
Yes, mko na hoteli nini? Mkirudi hapa Monday, iki tutamaliza kwa hapa nyumbani.
Yes.
The guy said, sawa chief. I understand and appreciate the very tough situation that the players found themselves. Because 1, you've been told that you'll be given this money before you come back. 2, you've actually gone around and played the London leg. You've waited, you've interrogated, you've been told the sponsor has not actually come through. The sponsor has confirmed that they've come through. You're now on the eve of the last tournament. And after that, there was meant to be a lull of about 6 weeks before going in for the World Cup in San Francisco. And you're not going to be certain whether you'll make it to that team.
Yeah.
So already you're saying, tulienda Commonwealth, Australia, tukambwe inakuja kukuja. We were told, you guys trained for London. Before London will come, it did not come. Before London, when they did a photo shoot, told, now with this photo shoot, don't worry, it's coming. It did not come. Then we're now being told this guy has not sent money, but the guy sent money. Upper, something is happening.
Kuna pesa imekulwa.
Yes. So whatever decision that they did at that point in time, I philosophically, I disagree with it. I'm certain there would have been other ways to address it. But now the moment they went on again to now block off the sponsorship.
That was in London.
That was in Paris.
Yes.
Paris.
Oh, that was in
That
Paris, yeah.
That actually broke any other negotiation that we would have put it with. Because remember, in around 2015, 2016, we already had an issue whereby the corporate circle said that us guys are cocky, cocky in the sense that
Yeah.
get the money from
Financially tukana corporate.
Yeah, after the conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. Hao jamaa wamefura kichwa na ni kama wako na pesa ya kutosha, lakini ile pesa tunatumia si pesa yetu, ni pesa tumerithi. Unaona?
Okay.
We did not make the money, we inherited the money.
Yeah. Inheritance money itakwisha siku moja.
Yes, na inheritance money imeisha. Sasa tunarudi kutafuta kazi. Lakini kwa sababu tulitukana na watu in our drunken stupor during the inheritance money, it's becoming a bit hard. We are qualified for the job, but they're saying that this guy's conduct is
Is unbecoming.
It's unbecoming.
it's unbecoming.
It cannot be
And all
all
that somebody had to do,
Wamefura
all
kichwa.
Yes.
somebody had to do was just answer the phone call
Yes.
before, I think after before the Paris. leg.
Before Paris. And
Just
that
answer the call.
and,
Yes,
and
that didn't
explain and
That was it.
give an
That didn't
explanation that
Yeah.
would make sense.
Let me tell you, when I say this, I'm laughing, but it was not the case then. Wake up on Saturday morning, It was June 2018. Of course, like you'd expect, every board member is watching them. The first game, I'll never forget. First game that Kenya was playing, Kenya versus Samoa.
And that's a game you can't even miss
I
watching.
can never forget. From the tunnel, you're seeing Samoa in their blue. Then Kenya have a shirt like what Omoshi is placing on. Actually, it was a shirt. Come on. Oh, no, kisio exactly. Lakini inaka kidogo kama.
Yeah. Kidogo.
Ilikuwa Sports Pesa already ama Kenya Airways?
No, it was not sports.
It was
Oh, it was Bidco.
Bidco's at the back, and then it was the government of Kenya.
It was the government of Kenya.
It was
Oh, yeah.
It was Brand Kenya.
Brand Kenya, yeah.
It was Brand Kenya.
Yeah. Imefunikwa.
So, I'm trying to see, Bana, is there something wrong with my TV? Because I can't read that Brand Kenya. But the thing is zoomed out wide. I'm saying white Bana, but maybe ilifutika. So the first guy comes out like, maybe something happened to the brand. The guy Ziba. The next player comes in. The third, the fourth, the entire bench. I'm saying, what?
Ni masking tape.
Yeah.
As that is happening, simultaneously, we get a call from the then chairman of the Kenya Rugby Union, Richard Omwela. Guys, what is happening?
I think there's a problem.
Does anyone know what's happening? No answer. Pop, game is done, etc. We're still in shock. I think the bigger shock was even seeing that the branding had been rubbed off, had been blocked off. But what was going to happen was even a bigger shock. So the game was done. We had a quickly constituted call. What has happened, etc. Who knew, etc.
Who was on
what
the ground?
escalation front, etc. Fine. Moments later, that time I think the president was in Canada, Uhuru. He had got to do something. I think some Commonwealth thing in Canada. I think he either got wind of it, or I suspect he must have been watching the game.
Yeah.
Somebody must have
Somebody
called him
said
in
something.
6
But
seconds.
I'm certain he saw it.
Somebody
he saw
called
it.
him in 6 seconds.
But what we're
Na
basically
yeye
told-
apendi aibu ndogo ndogo.
yes, but basically we're told, as a board of Kenya Rugby Union, whatever it is that you need to go around and pay these fellows, get it paid. But by the next game, and of course 7 games are interspersed by about 2 hours.
Yeah.
But by the next game, I want to see those boys with that thing of shuttle diplomacy, etc., etc. The guy said, "Fine, we've had, we will do it." Sawa. We waited for 2 hours. Like, okay, crisis averted. Game number 2, Kenya versus England. Same.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. Tee up, and now we're saying that this
But
is
by the
guys.
way, Hila, which official was on the ground? Because normally you guys would send an official.
Yeah, there was an official.
No,
But,
no names mentioned.
no names mentioned.
Yeah.
No names mentioned.
So
Yeah.
See, I'm giving the background
Yes.
so that we can actually
And
understand.
that's fair enough.
Sawa,
That's fair
sawa,
enough. We
okay,
don't need
okay,
any
can
names.
understand.
Yeah.
So when I
okay,
talk
so
about
but maybe the guy had gone to negotiate na kambiwa
Yes.
wewe
It's a
toka
really
hapa.
good movie, by the way.
Yes, yes.
Really.
Maze Ruth is like,
Kwanza nyinyi mnaniharibia story.
Oh, sorry.
Yule pale.
Hapana, si unajua kuna
Na hii
curiosity.
si ajaba.
Umeshwacha story bro.
Aya, endelea.
Na hii si ajaba. Hii si ajaba, hii ni story ya kweli. Kenya England tumelimwa pia hapo. So, boss, what's happening bana now? The team manager is called, everyone else is called. Okay, guys, 2 games in a row. Crazy stuff. We must ensure that this does not happen again. Now we get a call from the fellows in charge of execution because the government had put in some money because we're trying to prep the team ahead of the World Cup. And now they're saying, you guys have decided that because it's the government of Kenya, you can tell, in fact, there was you can tell your team to block off that Brand Kenya thing. So is this basically, and it gets,
Protest.
interesting. Is it because, is it a protest? This is 2018, a year after the elections. Is it something to politically give a statement after the elections last year?
Yeah.
Who has given you these instructions? Why are you guys doing this and that kind of stuff? But anyway, the bottom line, not told, is whatever allowances. So you guys you've got a board of directors. Whatever allowances is spending, you're at 10, 11 guys. Changeni, says he. Wewe let you up 100,000 or 200,000, etc. Mweke pamoja. Kama kuna Western Union, put someone into a flight today. He goes to France. By tomorrow morning, pay
Alipewa
those
wase.
guys.
Cash.
Give them cash.
Cash
Give
money.
those
Yeah.
guys cash.
Cash money.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to be taken. So of course, first games of the day, all branded is Imezibwa. Do you know the president called those fellows?
Call the players.
He called the players.
Yes.
Wow.
He
Okay.
did. The president of Kenya called the players. It's on record.
Yeah.
Ask the fellows, guys,
Issue ni gani?
whatever the issue is, let's try and ensure we can go around and keep our national pride on. Let's just be patriotic. Ingine yaliondoele sipite.
Yaliondwele sipitie.
Sawa mzito, mzito, tuko sawa. Sunday morning ilikuwa imetolewa bado tape. Hii kitu hatutoi mpaka tulipwe. Anyway, they paid the tournament, they got back in. So now it's a factor of two. Umeziba ya serikali, mumongelesha sponsors vibaya. Wale sponsors mlikuwa mkijaribu kutune, wanasema hata kama serikali imeziba mtafanya nini?
Yeah,
so
us guys, what else do we have?
Nowhere to hide. Fast forward. So we proceed on through. After Singapore, we've been in a couple of finals here and there. But already by then, the focus that we actually had on, age grade development, the ability to go around and hone our 15-a-side premier tournaments. Because right at the time, we're trying to go around and make Safari Sevens more vibrant, moving from Arife to Nyayo Stadium, etc. We actually dropped off a tournament for the 15-a-side that used to be called the Super Series.
I remember the Super Series, yeah.
So, of course, everything else was dropped off so that we can focus on Safari Sevens to try and actually mine that tournament. And the end game was such that it can support the Sevens program and potentially also go around and have a trickle effect. So there was a Super Series, it used to have a chairman's select tournament that also had an under-21 segment. Basically, an entire feeder system that was ideally made to look at the top 100 rugby players in Kenya. Now, if you may not necessarily make the cut for 15-a-side, you'd be able to make the cut for sevens. But all the focal points were now moved into sevens, and not necessarily being able to reverse it using as a feeder system to 15s. What we're basically looking at right now, where we say that we don't actually have a big group of players who actually have very good skill sets, where we're actually saying that the fellows are not being paid. So the fact that the players are not being paid on time is nothing new, because we never actually had that ability to sustain it. The problem is that we created a buzz at some point in time that made people believe that that could actually work. But the biggest issue is that we messed up on our entire process, whereby we let the Super Series fall off, we let the chairman select fall off, etc., etc. So all the things that would have been able to go around and give us a very big bread basket, for lack of a better term, to go around and select players, had actually been perhaps pulled off for close to about 8-9 years before then. So even right now, when you start saying that, our rugby accusants, we don't actually have fellows who actually can go around and look at space and whatnot, it's because we actually then narrowed the ability to go around and get a bit more quality, because we did not focus on what we need to focus on for about 8-9 years before then. Ni kama sasa hivi, if you start misusing your water, do you expect it to be sustainable? Even if you actually have a borehole within the next 8-9 years, got to be sustainable to say I can actually only use this water, when it's dry. But during the rain season, but you're still pouring water during the rain season. During the dry season, still pouring out, etc.
It's kind of like you're taking care of a car's paint job and interior.
Yes.
But engine, you're not doing oil changes, nanini.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I go back: process, performance, priorities.
Okay.
That's been the three biggest issue within the last decade.
Wow.
Because over here, I think we have been very, very, very vocal.
I mean, I think this is a very humbling conversation.
It is.
Because we've had
some doors.
We've had our own opinions.
Correct.
And I always felt there was something on the inside that we did not know.
True.
Yeah. And I think right now, even with a change in guard, right now we have Sasha Mutai. Based on what Hilary has told us, I mean, unless things are reversed and we go back to that system where 15s is prioritized, because all of us were fooled, and we did have a golden generation of sevens rugby, and also when you want to think back a little bit, a lot of these sevens rugby players, they were actually very decent 15s rugby players,
Ali,
from before.
Ali, let me jump in and say something here.
Sure.
And Hila, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The moment when we had that golden generation, the moment when we had Lavin, Gibo, Toll, when we had that team that actually went to Singapore the first time, remember that team usually used to go to tournaments and get to quarters and not go anywhere. But then during the World Cup in Dubai is when they showed what they can really do when they reach the semis.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember the referee is the one who made a mistake against the Wales game, and that's how we lost that game. But then the next tournament, which was Singapore, is when we went and won it. And I remember Benja telling us, ngojeni tu mtaona, mimi kazi yangu ni kuwasha hivi kibiriti na moto inawaka, na pale nimefika sasa sina kibiriti, nina lighter. I remember telling her, hii timu yangu ni lighter sasa si kibiriti, nikistrike moto itakuwa inawaka.
Yeah, that sounds like that. Yeah, that sounds like
now
that.
if you remember that time, we had a very strong 15 setups. The Super Series was very strong. It was really, really strong. As you said, we had the Chairman's Cup at that particular time, and there was more. Yes, we had that particular good 17s, but those players actually performed because in that period of 2 to 3 years, we had a very strong 15 seasons whereby we could keep our players fit and gassed up to a point whereby when they came to the shorter version of the sevens team, of the sevens game, they were super fit than regular 7 players. Am I wrong on that, or
correct?
That is what it is?
Correct. You're correct. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So Ali, back to you. When I was just saying on the, I was pointing on what Ali was saying, that, and basically pointing out when we have a stronger 15 system, our sevens will benefit more than us having a stronger 7 system.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know, and now with that, you know, like that narration that Hila gave us, now I have a good understanding, you know, like especially from a technical standpoint on why it's important. And that's why I used to wonder, you know, like when you look at these teams that are good in sevens, even like New Zealand, they would rarely send their best players, you know, like when you look at, so it's kind of like these sevens tournaments, it's kind of like they send players who are in development. They send sometimes very young players, you know, like people who are 19, 20 years old. And I used to wonder, you know,
they play
like
for 2-3 years,
yeah,
and then
I'm like,
a new crop
I'm
coming
like,
in.
what's going on with them? Why are they not sending, you know, like their best players? And those players who they were sending were still very decent. And once in a while, like during a Rugby World Cup, is when you would see them sending, you know, like a better crop of players, because it's just once in a while, and you would see that difference, you know, like in skill of the players they bring for the sevens tournaments and the players they're sending to the sevens Rugby World Cup. So this is quite interesting, and it gives a whole new perspective of what to expect. So Hila, if let's say Sasha Mutai calls you, you know, and tells you, you know, like based on your experience and based on what you know, how do we move forward from here? We know, you know, like there's those issues with financing, there's issues with sponsors, there's issues with trust, even from the players based on what you had said. So how do we move forward to a point where, you know, like Kenya will become competitive once again, you know, both, you know, like in the 15s, because now I see we have to start from the 15s and then trickling up to the 7s. What do you tell Sasha?
Sasha has a very, very clear-cut job cut ahead for him. And I know he's also very passionate about the 15s and age grade setup. Within the last 3 months, I have seen him actively on the forefront attending Prescott Cup matches. If you actually look at the pictures, you'll see him there. Blackrock was being played across the last weekend. I saw him giving the trophies there.
And I also saw there was a women's tournament for Blackrock this time. Yeah.
The Nairobi Metropolitan qualifiers for nationals 6 weeks ago. So he's trying to actually understand from a National Secondary School Sports Association what sort of linkages need to be done. And he's actually looked not only at the playing ability but also in the officiating. The one thing that he needs to then be able to understand is how to have that transition being retained now. If you look at the numbers of rugby players in Kenya, and I go back to age grade development, which I said we lost for about 8-9 years. If you look at the sort of statistics that we have on World Rugby, talking towards the number of rugby players in this country and whatnot, if you look at primary school, and this is where it becomes pear-shaped, we probably have, but not formally on, we probably have maybe, say, think if you look at the last set of data, close to about 16 to 17,000 children at primary school, mostly around Nairobi and the metropolitan towns of Nakuru and Mombasa, who play rugby.
Yeah, that's true.
When you get into high school, that 17,000 breaks down and
goes
it comes
down.
like about 11,000.
Okay. What happens to these other kids who are playing rugby?
So we don't know what actually happens. They just vanish. No one actually tracks.
Okay.
Then from high school into colleges, even gets lower, about 2 to 3,000. So our retention is a big issue. One, because no one actually goes on through to actually create an understanding as to whether it's an issue of the disparity in geographical location, where we need to perhaps go around and get a couple of clubs placed up, and it could be a mixture of issues. Do we need to speak to the ministry, to speak to the county associations, to ensure that you can actually go around and ensure that maybe we're actually losing out on players in Meru because there's only one team in Meru, or there's, I don't know, a couple of players in Baringo. What are we doing to go around and actually understand what's fundamentally not working? So we do a lot of work at the very onset, but you end up losing close to 70% of the players when you really need them.
Okay, at that critical stage. And at
So
that
it
stage,
affects your quality.
a player is still, their trajectory is still going up.
Correct.
So there are players who are improving.
And you remember when we had Lawrence Olum, he talked about retention.
Yes.
Like at some point, the kids who probably may have potential of doing something better, either joining a national team or whatever, but at some point it's like kids just disappear.
They disappear.
Especially like when they get into high school, because we had Lawrence talking about soccer, and at some point it's like kids chomoka primo, they ingia high school, but over there in high school there's nobody searching, there's nobody looking, there's nobody paying attention, and just
And they just disappear.
Yeah.
So the first thing, if I was Sasha, I'd look at is just the developmental pathway, retention as a key thing. The second bit, which is a very tough discussion, especially now post-COVID, with the economy in Kenya being as is being able to understand what sort of commercial partnership you can actually get for rugby, but do not place it as a commercial partnership for rugby in Kenya, but look at it as a commercial partnership for rugby in Africa. And rope in people like Uganda into the conversation, rope in people like Zimbabwe into the conversation, Namibia, because by and large also having, some ripple effects because of, the post-pandemic sort of scenario that we're having. South Africa is not doing any better. If you look at the records that South Africa Rugby have, they've also been hurt.
They've also been hurt.
And if you look at just globally, I saw an article, very sad article 2 days ago. London Irish have also been wound up. London Wasp were wound up this particular season.
Wow.
So not so much money is being actually pumped into rugby even on a global front. If you're seeing 2 premiership clubs in the UK getting into administration, it tells you about what's happening. So that is the toughest bit. Looking at the structural bit on development is an easier fix. Looking at retention is an easier fix. The commercial discussion has to be mooted in a way such that any commercial party you're looking at trying to get, you've got to rope in a couple of people, create the level of value to try and plug in. Unfortunately, that's where we are, at least for the next year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you see us? Where do you see us going? Because I know, like from the outside, we're just looking from a perspective that our sevens team was relegated. Can they come back within a season? Because coming back from relegation is not an easy feat. Or should we be looking at this in a longer term? It may not happen for the next 3 years or for the next 4 years. Should we prepare ourselves for that?
So I like being an optimist, and we probably have maybe another 11 months before the qualifiers to see whether we'll actually get promoted or not. We'll be on. And I believe we'll go around. Sevens is easy to go around and get back into it. The bigger problem is trying to create the structure for 15s that is sustainable.
Okay.
So next month, the Junior World Rugby Trophy will be played in Nairobi from the 15th to the 30th of July.
Okay.
So Scotland, who got relegated from the Junior Under-20 World Cup, will be coming into Nairobi. We'll have Samoa coming in. I think the US will also be taking part. Uruguay.
This is 15s rugby.
15s Under-20.
Wow, that will be amazing.
Yes. So now, if you were to ask me, because we're actually hosting the Junior World Rugby Trophy in Nairobi, if you had to ask me, Hilary, what would your mind, what would your emotion want? If you could potentially go around and get maybe 40 or 50% of players in that team being then placed into high performance environment, because they're literally going to play with people who eventually pay for Scotland and Samoa and Uruguay. Scotland, Samoa and Uruguay in this year's Rugby World Cup, by the way. So we're talking about kids who will actually be coming to Nairobi who, depending on their form, could potentially be playing for their first national sides in September. Some of those kids will actually come to play for Samoa. 2 or 3 will actually play for Samoa in the World Cup. Some of them coming to play for Scotland in Nairobi will be playing in the World Cup. All right.
Where?
So this is actually going to be like high octane.
This is going to be a big
environment.
test. Yeah.
Now, if you already have a crop of players at under 20 level who've been exposed onto that, if you already have the ethos and you can even get maybe 6 or 7 of them to get to the sevens program, it becomes an easier bit because now you're getting people with a different mindset. We could have done this maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It didn't happen, but we're here where we are right now.
Yeah.
Most of the current crop of players who were in the team have been in the team for, well, close to a decade. I mean, you know, people look at Oyo and forget that Oyo was a kid in 2016 when he was playing and he scored that try against Fiji in the final. But fast forward, this is 8 years. When he was like maybe 21, 22 at that time. He's now in his 30s, you know.
Yeah.
He has given his, you know, his best for the country, but is it the future for us? We need to ask ourselves some of those particular questions. I'm not saying that he's basically, you know, past his prime, but it's at this point in time you start saying, what do we actually have to start from the ground moving on up? The Junior World Rugby Trophy is in Nairobi next month. It's high octane rugby.
Okay.
How do you then go around and actually say that we want to consistently be in the Junior World Rugby Trophy? It can't be a flash in the pan. How do you then go around and work up on the age grade? How do you bring back the chairman under 21? How do you bring those chairman and chairman under 21? How do you bring Super Series so that these guys continue performing at a very high level? How do you go and ensure that there's age grade at Prescott that allows you to give you great under 20 talent, etc., etc., etc.? So the longer you continue being consistent at that particular front, because of the fact that you already have that particular process, the performance will definitely be a ripple effect. And your priority now becomes the ability to ensure that there's high performance and retention and everything else just locks in. The one that I think, and I said it already, will be a hard fix and it's not going to be overnight is a commercial bid because it's a pain right across the globe.
Okay. All right. Oh, wow.
Hey.
I know.
Nimetuliza hizo ma questions zangu zote.
Yes.
Zikule
Lecture series.
No. You see, I love this conversation because you see, we basically did not, you know, like all the questions that we had in mind
were answered.
You know, and we
From
have
the little knowledge that
you know, and we have Ruth here who was paying attention.
Who does not participate in sports?
Actually, I never said
She never participates in sports. She goes. I don't know where she goes, but right after sports, you'll see her back.
She goes to North Kingango.
Yeah, you'll see her back.
What's there?
You know, which is good because I think because I think not only did you package that very well. I mean, of course, you're familiar with everything, but you told it in a very easy way to understand. Yeah, because, you know, some people hapa kina Ono Mike had maswali za polisi. You know, I think all those maswali za polisi are all gone. And I think, and I think this is gonna be.
My mistrust is very high when it comes to just like in like organized sports.
Yes,
because when you see that the use of Vitu, then you start hearing like Akina, the Malkia Stars, All Stars.
But now you see, we never had, you know, like the inside information, the background information that we have today, and I think this is gonna inform, you know, like how we're gonna see it from now going forward. All right,
I have
Ruth.
a question. So normally when failures like that happen, somebody does an op-ed, not an op-ed, like a profile. You see, like kind of explain, like journalists kind of gets an insight in on what's happening. And they write an article kind of explaining, okay, this is what happened, right? Might not name names, whatever, but at least the public gets to know what happened. How come that didn't happen? Because then these people who are very invested would have known, had an idea.
Very, very good question. Very good question. And I'll not say this with the intention or at maybe throwing shade at anyone's journalistic prowess, but the quality of journalism in Kenya is debatably...
Has been wanting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ali has been vindicated.
You know, and especially, you know, like...
because unless you're saying internally someone goes to whistleblower, but that should be the intention of the media. They call the fourth estate.
Yeah. They should come to you guys and say, like, there's a story here.
Yeah.
Tell, you know, and people are interested. It's public. Everybody saw it. So it would be a good time to kind of tell the story in a measured, open way.
You know, I'm a big consumer of media, you know, like both American and Kenyan. And I'll tell you something, and I've seen this change over time. This is kind of like investigative reporting. Yeah. Investigative reporting is kind of dead in Kenya.
Kind of? Well, yes.
I don't even know. I would have added buried, but I still have some hope for it to come back.
I
think we had two people. We have two people now, right?
It's dead. One. It's dead, and the reason why I say it's dead, because this kind of reporting And like I always talk about sports journalism. When you look at our media houses in Kenya, when you look at big talents like Wahiga Mwaura, people tend to forget that this guy was a sports journalist.
Yes.
He was a sports journalist when he started, but the way our media works is that wakiona umeivaiva kidogo wanakuambia sasa tunakupromote kutoka sports tunakuweka politics.
Yes.
And I think that's problematic. In as much as I love politics, I think that's problematic with Kenya being a country that has very high prowess in sports.
Yeah.
We need to have dedicated sports journalists
Agreed.
who can go focus, who understands these games. They can go follow a story, they have like contacts they know from the inside. They can come and sit down. This kind of story you cannot, it cannot be done by just a random guy like who is looking for a story to fill the sports section. This kind of story is a story that someone who understands the history of the union, the profile, to be able to get it and to be able to package it in a way that the average person reading will understand.
And actually,
yeah,
I would venture and add on to say that it has to be probably somebody who is really very well vested in rugby.
Yes.
Because just like here, you have baseball writers.
Yes.
And they just do baseball, NFL, and they just do NFL.
You have people who just do boxing.
Boxing, and that's it. So like here, you just have a rugby guy who is in and out rugby.
That's another area in which I think a lot of the traditional media that we have not necessarily seen a profitable way into it. But I think if properly nurtured, we could start by doing, because think about it, LeBron James was on the Sports Illustrated when he was still in high school, which means there were people who are following him, because by the time you get to Sports Illustrated, it means that people have been following you for like 4 years.
Yes.
By the time he was in the 12th grade of high school, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which means there's someone who's been following this guy from 9th grade,
and it starts
from whatever grade.
It starts from your local, local newspaper.
Now we have the LeBron Jameses of 5,000 meters. We have the LeBron Jameses of marathons. Do we know, like who are our next stars in marathons who are currently in high school?
Nope.
Do we even know them? Are we even following where they are currently? Because that's what creates value in a particular athlete. Once you start giving us media stories about him, huyu hapa yuko form 2, St. Patrick's 10, but kuna potential atakuwa winner wa Boston Marathon. You're already starting to create commercial value even before. LeBron James had commercial value before he touched a basketball in the NBA. You're seeing now, he's translated that to the son, Bronny James. Bronny James, even before he's gotten to USC, he's going to be playing for USC, he already has commercial value, like before he gets in there. So I think, like from a journalistic perspective, this also needs a similar kind of investment. Unaona vile Hilano get you investment year 15s, to be able to trickle up. This is something that needs to be done slowly. Unfortunately, in Kenya, there's someone who'll test it, and once they see it working out, then now you'll start seeing a lot of other people trying it. Mika,
this goes back to what I started by saying: people understanding the business of sport. And I usually say that somebody who's played the sport or who's done the sport, you see an idea on how do you start commercializing your players right before they get on the pitch. We, even in soccer, we see player profiles. You will start like somebody like Vinicius Junior. We started hearing about Vinicius Junior before he left Brazil. By the time he was coming to Spain, we knew who Vini Junior was, right? Neymar. We knew about Neymar before he left Brazil, right? Because there's an agent who represents this wonder kid, who knows this wonder kid is good. How do I build a profile on him as such, and get to the journalist, together the journalist, work with that journalist and building a profile and selling the player. So it gets back to the understanding of, I was a rugby player, I'm a former rugby player, right? Right now I've retired. How do I continue using what I know from rugby? Some people will go to coaching, some people will go to refereeing, some people will go to being agents. Others might decide to go to TV and sports. Now the thing is, also the media houses in Kenya, as you said, have to start looking at it from just being sports, right? We have entities like Fox Sports, CBS, Paramount making millions and millions of dollars, making millions and millions of dollars from just sports in itself, while building all those analytical programs and all that. This is something whereby if everybody, as you said, as an investment to that sport, is start looking at it from a point of a money-making machine. Because if you don't look at it just something that I'm going to put money there to sell myself, that's what most Kenyans do. Ukikuwa mnoma, ndo everybody wants to associate with you because itawapatia limelight, alafu waendelee, watakupatia pesa, uwapate limelight, and they move on. But people don't look at it as a way of how do I make money from it.
Okay.
So,
all right, sawa asante Mika, and I think at this point, at this juncture, we want to come and just wrap up this sports segment. I know, there's a conversation want to have just to do a quick review of Sautisol Madaraka Festival tour. But real quick, before we get to Ruth on that, Hila, just give us a few last comments on just where you see Kenyan rugby in the next like 10 years with this new direction that we are taking.
I will say what I would envisage, what I hope will happen. I think focus on retention right across the age grade. So we have had rugby formally declared as a sport that is recognized by the Ministry of Education at secondary school level. That's why we end up having the Kenya Secondary Schools Sports Association doing the 7-a-side and 15-a-side. I would like a similar sort of setup to be done in primary schools, because formally in public primary schools in Kenya, it's not been admitted by the Ministry of Education. Soccer is, athletics is. That's why even at the primary school level, you can end up having soccer tournaments and athletics tournaments. I would like, at the very least, tag rugby to be acknowledged, because that then means out of potentially 600,000 to 700,000 students who graduate from primary school every single year, then if you can actually get 10% of that, that's already 70,000. That's like twice.
So the pipeline is...
So you're growing your pipeline, just like in any typical sales funnel. So if you can actually get that formally acknowledged at the primary school level, it means that you're now strengthening our pipeline moving into high school. And even if you're looking at the process and strengthening the competition, you actually have a bigger base to work with. So that's the first thing I'd be able to look at.
Okay.
2, I would be able to go around and anticipate that also has a trickle-down effect on regionally, how we then ensure that rugby is just not considered to be a sport that is played by guys who like eating chicken in Western Kenya or eating fish in Nyanza. Or guys who like throwing stones in Nakuru. I mean, I was born in Nakuru. I'm not saying I throw stones. But I'd like it to really, really be, accepted. I mean, compared to 20 years ago, there's a lot more verve about rugby, but there's still a lot that can actually happen.
Yes.
And then commercially, sustainability.
Okay.
Just being able to go around and ensure that once we actually get that front, we'll be able to get into activities that be sustainable and not where we potentially go around and drain our inheritance like we did a decade ago.
Okay.
These are the conversations that would be nice to have, like on a day, like a sports talk. Just talk about rugby.
Okay. All right. So that's Hilary Itela, former director, Kenya Rugby Union, and of course, Changerian. Asante sana, Hilary.
Pavlov.
That was a great conversation. Now I want to come quickly to Ruth. I know we've taken a lot of time, and we just really want to go to Sautisol Madaraka Festival Tour. Now, Sautisol had a performance last week at Karma in DC, which was their last event. They had gone to different cities, I believe Seattle, Dallas. They went to Atlanta and a couple of other places.
Was the New York one done? No.
Yes, the New York happened.
So
New York was last Friday.
So it was New York,
Dallas,
Seattle,
and DC,
and
Did go
DC.
in LA?
Yes, they also went to LA.
LA, okay.
Yes, they also went to LA. So it was quite
But
a
those ones
robust
were
tour.
added.
Huh?
Those ones were added because initially when we had
DC was not even
DC
there
was
originally.
added.
DC was added.
Yeah.
DC was not unique.
but it
Yeah.
was not part of the career because I think initially it was supposed to be Atlanta, Dallas,
No,
Seattle.
waliendezo zote takuwa jihadi.
Yeah.
So I think I was in Kenya when I saw the dates, and I literally was planning on going to New York because they'd say they'll do at the original
They'll
dates.
start with New York.
Yeah, but the original dates was New York would be June 4th.
Yeah.
And so I remember writing to my friend Nora who came to the show.
Yes.
Like, Nora, we need to go to New York. But then she was working like that. She's supposed to be working that. Like, I'm really not sure whether I'll be able to go. So I'm in Kenya. Then I'm like, whatever, I'll figure this out when I get back there. So I come here and they've added DC. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I don't need to like plan going to New York. So I get my tickets. It's funny. I got that ticket the day before.
Ticket to Sautisol?
Sautisol.
Okay.
So on Saturday.
On Saturday. I had planned to go. The plan was there. I got it on Saturday.
Procrastinating.
No, but then I go. So let me say, so I've never been to a Kenyan concert, like any headliners or anything. That was my first
So this
time.
was your first?
My
You've never been to a Kenyan concert in the US, or you've never been to
Ever.
a Kenyan concert even in Kenya?
Ever.
So this was your first Kenyan concert
She's
ever.
not Kenyan.
No, I mean, this is quite...
Even the last time Sautisol was here, you never
She
attended.
was not living in this area.
I wasn't in this area.
Oh,
No, but they went to different states.
That was 2015.
Yeah, that was
Early
2015.
Where was
Hawakwenda Rowo.
Hawakwenda huko.
I
Okay.
never lived in Lowell for the record. But anyway.
Sorry.
It's the same place. Lowell, Boston,
No,
Worcester. It's all the same place.
They're all, they're all.
It's all one and the same.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
It's
not.
like it's like Rongai and Gong.
It is
Yes.
NOT.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so this is literally my first ever Kenya concert, and so I was so. I'm just giving my experience, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I was so interested. I was like, I am not even driving there. I'll take Uber. Like, no one stress like gari na kutoka. So I get there. They say it starts at 3 p.m. This is the other thing I don't know. Like when people say 3 p.m., it's like is it like day party? I don't know what the heck that was.
They say doors open at 3 p.m.
Day
Yes.
party.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Sorry. It.
So I get there at 5, and we out.
Decent
Some
time.
someone over here told me, "Oh, call me, Kenda. I'll be there."
So
The way his car was
hiyo ni story
structured.
ya nyuma ya tent.
The way his car
No,
was
there's no
structured.
Nyuma attended anymore, Ali.
hiyo ni story ya nyuma ya tent.
No Nyuma attended anymore. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, I got to meet people in DC. Like, I'm still very new. I know people don't think I'm new to DC, but because I really don't go out that much. Like, where people go to meet, this is not my places to meet. This is a really nice place to meet with people. I got to meet a ton of people. I met with Omosh. Omosh was very instrumental in getting me, in connecting me with the people who would actually get me into the VIP sitting. So that was cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Omosh.
All right.
You're most welcome.
Okay.
Mulifanya magendo.
No, actually, no, I paid. I
paid.
paid, but it was like, yeah. Anyway, I did pay for my VIP sitting. It was not a magendo. And then the show starts. At some point, I literally was waiting for Kina Kinkaka, these other people, they said they'll be performing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that when they initially put out the information, those folks were supposed to be part of the tour.
Okay.
King Kaka
And Eddie Kenzo.
Eddie Kenzo never showed up, period, all through, right?
Okay.
For Madaraka. Even though he had been advertised as, and maybe something happened, we don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
he wasn't part of the whole thing. King Kaka
Anyway, watu walikuwa wanaenda kwa jia Sautisol na Kaka.
Ngoja Mika, wacha Omosha malize.
King Kaka had been posted,
Yeah.
but if you had followed him or if you follow him on Insta, he had actually said that he was done when the leg was in New York. So he was not going to be a participant
Yeah.
in the DC leg, and the DC
Yeah.
leg was an additional. So for me, I always took it as, just like Mika said, a Sautisol concert, because it initially we said Sautisol and Friends, and the and Friends were not quote unquote who we expected, because it was only one friend, right? There was only one person who performed.
No Nini?
No,
Was-
two. It was two actually.
Yeah, and then the other lady from Uganda.
The other Ugandan
the
lady, yeah.
Ugandan
Yeah.
lady, yes. So,
Yeah.
but as you are, my
Yeah,
friend.
that was also the first time I saw Nonini.
The first time you saw, as in terms of saw him on stage?
I think
or?
we need to have you get. I think we will get you a private concert, so that, in fact, maybe we bring him here to studio so that he can just perform for you.
No, but I think, like Ruth just revealing that this is the first Kenyan concert she's attended
Artist
is testament to the power of Sautisol. It's testament to the power of Sautisol. Because guess what? I know we hang out within our own circles, but I'm telling you, there are so many Kenyans out here in the US, raised in Kenya, who just never attend Kenyan shows.
Correct.
And I think it's important for us to try and find out.
I did ask a ton of my friends, and someone like, I really don't like African events. Like, though people gave me reasons why they can't come.
So that's right. So I think we really need to find out, like what it is, like that we've not, advertised to them, or why is it, that they're not doing this. And that's why I think the perspective of someone like Ruth is very important, because there are so many people.
There's a ton of them
that I know,
and there are people who I know who don't even hang out with Kenyans. There are Kenyans who don't hang with Kenyans.
They don't do Kenyans.
They
don't do Kenyans.
So
There you go.
That's right. Say it again.
They don't do Kenyans, but they showed up.
They were there.
Yeah.
Front and center and in line. And in fact, they were like, "Oh, Omosh, you're the only person who I know over here." And guess what? I had met them like 2 weeks ago. Kwa harakati za social media, socializing. I'm like, really? I was the only person who they knew, and they're like, I'm waiting for my friends. So wamekwameli hapa side yangu na siwezi wafukuza. So, but it was interesting just in having conversation with them, because the folks who they hang out with are not normally Kenyans. They don't hang out with Kenyans. They don't do Kenyan events. But once Sautisol was signed, sealed, delivered, boom.
They probably had a Shinsky mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but no. Let me
I
tell
don't
you
think that's
something.
what
This is one of the events whereby I have those friends who came here when they were young, pretty young, and even when they go to Kenya, when they go to Kenya, they don't really look. Wanagi to come a soul fest money. Now when the Kenya could enjoy tourist stuff.
It's a vacation.
So this is one of those events whereby I had like a lot of new people asking me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going. Come, let's go. 20. Like everybody, I'm like, they're good. And the good thing about it is, when I shared the show that Simon was here on the show with us, and then I will tell them, just go to Instagram and look at your friends' stories who have attended the previous shows. And they would see how the various shows were in the various cities. And the shows were improving as they were going.
Correct.
As they were going, they were getting better and better. And they just decided, fine, we're coming. And they actually came back and they were like, oh, damn, man. Hands down, best thing I've ever gone to. They were like, from just the performance, they were like, from DJ, Sunny killed them. They were like, from the host, Ida killed them. Kabisa. They were like, to the performances. Everybody was like, yo, the entertainment was out of the charts.
And the bonus was the outdoor, in my opinion.
Oh yes, that outdoor, that was an unexpected bonus.
I think that was a bonus to me, if you ask me. The day party, because
that's what it was a day party. That's why I met people.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yes, I got to meet people. Like, it was almost like a meet and greet.
And that's a reason why, like, to be fair, like Sautisol, came on stage a bit later than was advertised.
Demanding for them.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that there was not too much complaining, because people were having a good time in the outdoors.
Yes.
But again, there was an issue that some people had. They came in slightly later on stage than it was advertised.
Yeah, they had said they'd be there at 8.
Yeah, and then there was also, like a few complaints that came here and there, regarding tables. And I think Omosh, you're the one who maybe had, like a front and center view of what was happening out in the VIP section. Because me, kawaida yangu, I'm a man on the ground. I like being with people on the ground.
The people complaining about the tables?
Yeah, there were some mix-ups. I think there were some mix-ups, and maybe. And I think that really what it was, you sell tables, and folks are supposed to go to some place, and maybe there's a disconnect between the folks who are getting who are assigning the tables versus who's actually supposed to be there. And so once people are placed, then now you realize, oh no, these guys were not supposed to be here. It was supposed to be guys X, and this is what they had been sold. So those happen, or the disparity between, remember you and I had the discussion about VIP, like where's the real VIP versus the VVIP
I know,
versus
yeah.
the other VIP, like, versus if I have a VIP, do I get to sit, and if so, where do I sit?
Yeah.
And you know, so some of those were the unanswered questions, which maybe overall you might want to say that there should have been a better communication done to folks who were getting certain seats, that this is where you're gonna go, because it's an open venue that doesn't have seating, that
doesn't have
a
sections.
seating
Ama
chart.
saa zingine Omosh pia inakwanga pia tu ni over expectations zetu kama sisi kama revelers, like because tulinunua kitu tunafeel okay, niliona tickets zingine zilikuwa 50, mimi nimebuy hii ticket yangu ni 50. I feel like I should be treated especially for me most of the event kama ama ukienda club, when you're buying a VIP, you're usually just buying the comfort of, you don't have to go to the bachelor, una pale pa kukaa drink yako na pale pa kukaa.
Not
Every other comfort ukibaki kwako. But then all in all, there are some people pia ukuja kwa club Mosh na over expectations, especially an event. Unaona event ni ya Mkenya ameka hivi, nimelipa VIP. So jimini nimelipa VIP, watu wengine wajalipa VIP, I'm better than them, expect to be treated better.
But you say, and I think that maybe on this particular one,
based on the complaints I saw online, that's what I'm saying.
okay.
Because based on the complaints that I saw online,
there were
a few online complaints, yeah.
entitlement.
There were complaints online, but the thing about it with it, Mika, is that, you know, there was a description of what you are getting for what seating or for what tickets that you are purchasing. So if at the minimum you could not meet that, then definitely somebody would feel slighted some ways, you know, some way, right?
That's true.
And the fact that you call it VIP, but then maybe VIP designates that you'll be in a certain area but may not necessarily get access to whatever, right? And it also gives you first dibs, say, for buying a table, as opposed to, say, Omosh walking up who's sitting in the regular section who wants a table. A VIP person gets dibs before me because they already paid a higher, you know, amount of money. So they had certain different descriptions and different things or packages that you were supposed to get. And
that's why you really were telling me, where do you wanna go?
Correct, because to me, I actually sat down and I read the thing, and then of course there was no seating chart, which is one thing that Mika and I also noted, you know, and we're like, okay, so if we pay for the VIP, what are we getting, right? And ahead of time, you know, I'd had a conversation with a promoter who had told me, okay, you know, for you, I think the best bet is if you want to get access to the artist. You want to get not stand in line. You want to get basically you don't want to be bothered, you know. Get VIP. Don't do the stage, and of course definitely don't do the regular. So they had a regular part, then they had stage, and I think at some point the regular and the stage became one.
I know, I saw, yeah.
So, and it was just
because there was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people, but also what ended up happening is having that outdoor party, and then now we are ready to receive you guys. Guys come in. That part, you know, it was like, how are you going to separate people? You're not going to there's no separation for that area.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen. And you're dealing with masses of people coming in. Because I think we're about, I was going to venture to say about 600 people. I could be wrong.
I feel there was more, you know, I feel like there was more.
In my mind, I'm saying 600, but 600, again, you know, from where I was.
Yeah.
It's possible that they could have been 800.
Yeah.
But from where I was, because I didn't move to the other VIP until, you know, we went, or until people went to the green room, right?
Okay.
And, you know, some of us being, you know, we had access to get to areas which, in retrospect, when I play back in my mind, had I known, I would have done things slightly different. But it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, I had got to hang out with Sautisol prior to all of that. I got to hang out with them. So my experience was different, and then in 2015 I also had the experience of getting to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And so if I compare the two concerts, 2015 and 2023, man, night and day.
But here's my thing, you know, like and I do understand, you know, like I empathize with the people who maybe felt they should have gotten something better than they did, and the people who created some lives and they were saying, you know, like the service was subpar and everything. So this is what I'm gonna say, and I think this is very important. You know, like when we're looking at Kenyan events, you know, like in the future, because this is the time for Africa and I feel, you know, like Kenya's time is coming. When you attend, you know, like we've attended these Jamaican events, we've attended and especially Jamaican events, you know, like there's Jamaican events where, you know, like the service was venues, you know, like no AC and everything. But as you criticize, you want to look at the broader picture at what exactly you're doing. You know, like I've attended, you know, like for example, a show by a Tanzanian artist. We're not going to mention him or her.
That had 6 people?
Yeah, it had 6 people.
Okay.
Exactly. But let me tell you something.
Including the DJ and the artist.
And the bartenders and the bouncers.
Oh,
but
no.
and this show was on the same night. This show was on the same night that which I think was part of the mistake when Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury were fighting their first fight. That fight where they drew. It was on the same night. So immediately maliza hiyo fight, pap, nikatoka nikaenda huko. Then nikashtuka, you know, like from outside, you could not tell, you know, like there was nothing buzzing inside. But here's the funny thing. There was nothing online about that, you
And
know.
to date.
To
There's
date,
been nothing.
there was no evidence.
But that's because nobody went there.
There was no evidence.
No, but normally you would hear something.
Normally you would
went,
hear something.
Or we went and there was this or there was that.
No, normally-
Now, and I would give,
Yeah.
and I know where Ali's going with
Yeah.
this. If it was a Kenyan event,
That, let me tell you, it would have been known. Even guys in Wargadud and Syokimau would have known about it.
Where's Warga, dude?
Wargadud is in Wajir. You know,
I
that's
can
what I'm
give you an
saying.
example of
Yeah.
an event
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
bad, and it's for famous artist, the Nigerian artist. What's his name? Asake or Ashake, whatever they call him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The guy had a concert at Pilmico, Baltimore,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
By the time that concert was interrupted, one of the security had lost his gun. The VIP had been overrun by people, and
Oh,
they
yes,
had to
yes,
run
I
him
know.
out of the stage.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like
one.
literally
Yes,
ran him
yes,
out of
I
the stage.
remember
You
that.
know what they did? They made memes about it for a day and forgot about it. Never mentioned. The next time they were posting about him, he was killing it in Los Angeles.
And that's what I'm trying to make people. Even Burna Boy has been late. He's been a no-show. But you'll see Nigerians will only take the positive stuff. Hizi zingine wanaziweka kando. Because this is not, I mean, it's not something that happens every day. So the problem of over-advertising and the issue that I have sometimes with Kenyan criticism, it comes from people who never attend these events. A lot of times when you go online and you're looking at the people who criticized and said what, unamuliza
Alipigiwa story.
alipigiwa story. Unakumbuka when we were in Premo, there used to be those situations where who could watch the WF, who could watch wrestling, but then you want to pretend because everybody, that's what's buzzing. So you go listen to what happened. Undertaker alienda akamsondeka earthquake. So wewe unataka kwenda kutoa hiyo story, but you never watched it. You know, you're getting it from what you heard from your friend. You're going to another group of people and talking about it like you're actually there. And that damages the brand. You know, so that's where I want these people who criticize, I want them to use the same energy to, when they get something good, to share it
Wow.
with the same energy. And that's how we're going to move forward.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. A lot of, so normally it's tough to find positive reviews from our events, and I say Kenyan events. Normally it's tough.
Yes.
This time around with Sautisol,
There was a lot.
There was a lot.
They were all over the
there was
place,
a lot
everywhere.
Of positive reviews. People
From
were posting
all the
pictures,
different states they performed.
and
Everywhere, yeah.
and it was evident as you took a look at it. For us guys, since we were the last leg, we could see all the other cities, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. And you know when I knew that all of that stuff was real? When they just came into on stage and they did their thing, they then the music goes, and then they come on stage and they stop. I think there's a time when they did their intro, then boom, wakanyamaza.
Yes,
And the crowd.
It was so loud.
If you had that decibel meter,
Yo,
your ears were popping, and I was like, wow, these are
You know,
Kenyans.
yes.
I could not believe.
And these were mostly Kenyans.
Yeah.
It was 99% Kenyan.
These were mostly Kenyans.
99%
Well, actually, I'll
Kenyan.
reduce it to like 98.
99% Kenyan and Kerry.
Maybe I'll say
Kerry from
95.
Zanzibar.
Kerry's a Kenyan.
Yeah,
No,
sorry, yes.
I was sitting next to people who are not Kenyans.
So there were quite a number
yes,
of non-Kenyans.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sawa,
yes.
99.2.
I say 98.
I'll even say 90%. There was quite a
90.
number. There were some people who came. There were Americans who used to work at the Kenyan embassy. There was quite a big crowd.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was quite a big crowd. Wazungus, you know,
The
like Black
Zambians.
Americans, you know, like there was quite a number of them.
Yeah.
You know, I met a bunch of Burundians. You know, like there were some Ugandans. So there was actually quite a number of people.
They were
Yeah.
Ugandans.
Yeah.
You know, and I did count them. You know,
97.9%.
I said them
Okay,
again.
so
Yeah.
thank you for
They
updating your
they were
stats.
Ugandans
Yeah.
in the house too.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing
It
to
was-
hear the raw. Of
Oh
that.
my goodness.
I was like, wow, these
Yeah.
are
No.
actually Kenyans.
I was one of them.
And that crowd that was outside, it's almost like it doubled inside. Because ile crowd tulikuwa nao inje,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is a crowd. Okay, that's great. But then when they were inside, it was triple.
That's when you realized there were so
I was
many
like,
people
okay,
there.
wait, where did all these people come from? Because we didn't see them when we were outside, and we thought we saw everybody. There was a lot of people.
And people were so happy. You know, like this took me back. It's been a while since we've
Correct.
had events like
Yes,
this.
a good, yeah.
There were times when we used to have such events back in the days of Aero Squadron. But I think, you know, Sautisol, they were just here. I feel like they were just here to prove a point that we are just gonna come. We're not gonna piggyback on any other sijui South for Southwest or what. We're just gonna come
Yeah.
as Sautisol, and we're gonna prove to these people that this is what we can do. And guess what? There's other people are watching. Other people who are not Kenyans, you know, promoters and everything. Let me tell you, they are, especially in DC, people attend, you know, like just to see
And
what you guys are doing.
And you know what is interesting about this? It was a Sunday.
It was a Sunday.
I know.
I-
People going to work on Monday.
It was on a Sunday.
Oh.
Sunday.
Man, Sautisol,
Na nilitoka hapo kani nimewacha watu bado wako kwa dili.
they
Sasa
did,
Sani alikuwa na stua watu that time when we left.
Yes.
I said, and it was almost midnight.
they did their show in Dallas. I think it was on a Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a house full. And that's when I'm like, these guys
4 floors. Sijui.
are onto something, Ruth.
Okay, I have two things. One, good news. I met Big Ted finally
Finally.
in person, and I told him, oh, this is Ruth. I interviewed with one mic. I was like, oh, you're the one who did not know me. Like, yeah, that's me. So that was cool.
Yeah.
The other one, can I ask, why did DJ Sunny stop DJing and give it to the Cameroonian DJ? Because
You caught feelings.
Yeah.
it went down.
Okay. I can explain that.
Big Ted is a Pacherian. Oh, sorry, carry on.
I can.
Just for
But
information,
at some
he's
point,
actually
did you
my
notice
cousin.
that though?
Well, okay. Well, here's what happens, right?
Okay.
In the case of this tour, he was the DJ who was consistent in the tour. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not notice. I wouldn't have known.
I think he was in every city.
Okay.
That DJ.
So he was traveling with the
Yes,
with the
he
tour.
was-
So he was part of
Okay.
Madaraka.
He was part of the Madaraka.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was part of the Madaraka thing, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you know, maybe that's who
They chose.
that's who they chose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, Sunny was supposed to come in at a certain point. He played outside. Then he
Killed
played-
it.
Then he played inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what
Killed
he,
it.
What he was supposed to do was to set the stage. Then
Yeah.
this guy comes in,
Yeah.
but
Sunny is
This-
not a stage
I-
setter.
but this guy
Sunny is not a stage. He's the stage.
But
I
you see,
know, right?
but you see the problem is this,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes when you're the person who's putting all of this stuff together and you're choreographing it, you may not necessarily understand
The dynamic.
what you have in hand. You understand what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say? Meaning, Sunny ukimweka hapo, you have to put him in knowing, short of bringing in the guys who are coming to sing, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Unless maybe atafuatwa na Shinsky. Unless.
Okay.
And even then, because to me they go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Like peanut
again,
butter and jelly.
Yes, and that's why they perform together. Because they know they actually go on tour together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know.
They go on tour together.
I should go to their tour. I will say this. This is what I really liked about Sunny.
Shinsky
Wako Boston July 4th.
and Shinsky.
Oh, July 4th,
there
Wako
you go.
Boston.
So now you can go see.
So
your
now,
people.
now you have an
Boston.
excuse.
Okay, but Shinsky is actually coming to DC.
When?
In July. So. you'll
In
get-
July?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's
Not
July.
in July.
Is it July?
June
Yeah.
24th.
Is it
The
July?
last
June?
weekend of June.
Yeah, June 24th, and he's actually going to be playing with Terry as well.
With Terry.
It's okay.
You'll find out.
You'll find out since you are still learning. These are things you will find
And
out.
may or may not show up. But for Shinsky, I'll show up by the
Yes.
way.
Well, Terry
I'll
Zano does FET, so
Okay.
Fet
Yes.
and Prem.
ask
Like,
guys are
like I
speaking-
know
you
what
guys
I
are
know.
speaking
Like I
Japanese.
don't know what I
The other day
know.
you came
Ask me
to
what
say hi
FET
to
is.
me and
And
I
I'm-
was standing next to her.
ask me
Like
what
I'm
FET
going
is.
to-
Mnaongea Japanese to her.
I know.
Okay, no, so I was just
Okay.
I was assuming she had heard of FET. Clearly,
Fet on Prem.
yeah, clearly she's
Don't
still
even
in-
know what the heck
she's
that
still
is.
in,
Terry
But
She has
anyway, can I-
heard of it.
Yeah.
maybe I've seen him.
No.
Not sure I know him.
you've not heard of him.
FET is an event.
While you're ahead,
It's an
just
event.
quit.
Yeah.
It's an
So you've
event.
not heard of him.
Quit.
Oh
It's okay.
snap!
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then
Dude,
can I?
ile siku tulikuwa Swahili Village na wewe, I was standing next to Ida and Terry.
Okay.
Terry is the
Okay.
chick with the dreadlocks.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Ah,
I
yeah.
liked Ida.
It's okay.
I really liked
I
Ida.
will take you for a piano where Terry is playing and it's free. I will take you just so
Cool.
that you can. Ish.
Jesus is
Cool.
Lord.
Hallelujah.
Okay, wait. Sunny though
Yes.
brought the house down.
Oh,
Correct.
definitely.
He always
And
does,
I
yes.
loved what he did. So like
His
bringing the other
energy, yes.
person, it was like, oh my word, can you just go?
And you
you know
see-
the thing about Sunny is when Sunny is with Ida, it's another story because those people are choreographed. They do things together.
They do things together.
So even if it's off the cuff, where like they are making it as they go, they've done stuff so much together that inaingiana.
and you see the
They know
thing with
what-
Sunny,
yes.
Sunny is not just a DJ.
He's an
He's
entertainer.
an entertainer. He's a
Yeah,
performer.
he's a performer
He
as
gives you an
well.
experience. Iyo collabo yake na Ida
Yeah.
is just something out of this
Yes.
world. It's an experience on its own. It can be a show on
By
its
itself.
own
Yep.
Yeah.
by itself without anything else. And I think a lot of people who've not experienced them
Yeah, it throws
just
them off. Yeah.
it throws them off.
Yes, it does.
They're like, Allah, is this the main event or
No.
what?
Hii ilikuwa
Yeah.
ya- This was just to wet your
Yeah.
tongue.
So that's why when you bring someone after, like after Sunny, you bring another DJ after Sunny, like almost you said. So if you bring someone short of the main act who's performing, there's gonna be something off. And I think the organizers of Madaraka Festival have now learned that.
Well,
Because sometimes
they found out.
Easy
And
V2, you
and
find
remember,
out-
He
yeah.
didn't know. He didn't know.
Yeah.
Because when you think of, I don't know how many times Sunny hit Seattle.
Yeah.
But I don't think he hit Seattle that much.
no, he doesn't.
So
he doesn't hit there that much.
Our boy Simon has learned.
Yeah. So my thing is here is the only other person, the only other DJ that I would compare to Sunny in terms of an experience is DJ D Omi. And DJ D Omi,
yeah, he's
DJ
an
D
interesting
Omi,
character,
yes,
yes.
interesting character. There was a similar situation some years back. I'm not gonna mention the DJ who came after him because DJ D Omi came, like he hyped, like he was there, like killing it with the music. He was Uko dancing and everything. And then this other DJ came after him, and people actually started throwing plastic bottles on. It was so bad. It was so bad, like
tuambie
yeah.
jina.
No, that's classified. That cannot be revealed. Tutaonana nyuma ya tent. But this is where
Ushasema DJ Diomi, right?
Yeah, DJ
okay, we'll
Diomi.
just go research that.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
He's from Tanzania.
no, Diomi is from Tanzania,
He's
but he's
Bongo.
very fluent in Kenyan
Actually,
music.
he's been here in this show, right?
He's been in the studio. I don't know whether he's been on the one mic show, but he's been to Kilimanjaro.
And
I don't think he's
he
been
was
on the
one
one
of-
mic.
he was one
Club
of the-
COVID.
Club COVID.
Remember Club COVID? Yeah.
Alibomo.
No, he was on the show, but he was on the show through Zoom.
Yes.
Oh yes. He
Yeah,
probably was on
we
through
interviewed
Zoom.
him on Zoom.
Yeah.
On WhatsApp. But during Club COVID, he was one of the top DJs in Club COVID that hit him. Sistuki with his setup.
At one
No,
time.
Sunny was.
Yeah.
Sunny
Sistuki was
was
on
the top.
another level.
Yeah.
man.
No, Sunny, I mean, like, I don't even know.
Nobody could kill their creativity.
And
Like
then
they were just
And then his cousin.
Theirs was out of the
guy.
The other guy, the skinny guy.
out of the. And then
very-
one thing most people have never realized is that Sunny, after playing akikuja kukaa chini, yo kwa bado analyze mood ya club, and akiona imeshuka yo muasha anataka kurudi juu. Utampata amerudi juu.
That happened. That did happen.
So yeah,
He went back.
for him, he takes it personally, like the hype has to continue.
Correct.
Like he doesn't understand about club in a boat.
He has a master's in science of crowd analysis. You know, like
Excuse me?
Yeah, a master's in science of crowd analysis. You know, like he will figure out this is exactly what this crowd needs at this particular time. And he's gonna play. It's like he's in your mind.
But
it's like he's in all your minds.
Ruth, he's
and
been
reading them.
DJing
Because I can tell you, I've seen
Really?
a situation whereby a DJ went before Sunny, akacheza hits zote, like basically all the hits that were hitting,
And
all
they-
of them, akacheza
they
hits zote,
have
kama
that.
Sunny aliingia nyuma yake. But guess what? Sunny alichangamsha club kumshinda na ngoma za kitambo. Like
Sunny has got ESPN.
it's like a sign. He knows how to kuchocha watu, kuwainua, kuwafanya muinuke. So it's something that so many DJs unfortunately waingia kwa booth
Wanajibamba, yes.
yeye ubamba crowd.
I'll very
And that's how ukipata akutane na ile enthusiasm ya Aida na June ama na Aida tu peke yake, and the way they have that chemistry together,
Yes.
it's very hard to beat that.
It's very hard.
To beat that. Like you're a hype. Unakoka kama wale MC wa reggae, ni kama Mo na Kadame. Like DJ wa reggae na MC wake wameingiana.
Yes. And I'll very
wanakuanga hivyo, like they are so synced to, as in man, hautakuja hata ucheze ma hit zote, you won't beat that.
I'll very authoritatively say this, and I don't know whether there's other non-Kenyans who are listening to this. Sunny and Sistuki are easily the best African
Sunny and
DJs.
who?
I meant Sunny.
It's
Yeah.
like, is that the
Yeah,
same
Sunny.
person?
Wacha malize.
No, let him start
Yani
again.
mpaka nimesema. I
him
meant
start
okay. Let me
again.
start again. Sunny and Shinsky. I meant to say Sunny and Shinsky because they're always performing together. So sometimes you think that it's even the same person.
Yes.
So Sunny Sistuki and Shinsky, I can very authoritatively say, are the two best African DJs in the US. And I'm saying that very authoritatively. If someone has a problem with that, just bring your facts. Just bring your facts and we'll compare with our facts.
I would render to say, as a DJ duo, they really know how to perform very, very well. And I would even
nawasha
I would
moto.
venture to say
We are nawasha moto.
I would venture to say that I would say even Africa, because I don't know about Europe. I would even venture to say
Even across Africa.
Yes. If you take those
So if
jokers,
if-
put them
On what
together
she's saying.
Yeah.
and say tour all of Africa, people will be very surprised with what they get. And something about a Kenyan DJ who actually plays, like Kenyans like
Yes.
to listen to music.
Yes.
They play everything.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter where you take them.
It doesn't matter where you take them.
By the way,
That's-
ushaskiza mix ya Sunny ya Bangra.
No, nimesikiza mix yake ya Bangra, nimesikiza mix zake za Amapiano, and then here's the other interesting thing. These guys do, like exclusive weddings in some islands I have never heard of before.
Correct.
And these are the things that don't come out in public, but these are people who've just listened to them playing, listened to some of their YouTube mixes,
Videos,
and they're like, I'm paying them, like whatever amount of dollars, I'm flying them here, and they're gonna play for my wedding, or they're gonna play for my event. It was very interesting. There was this time DJ Shinsky's mix was playing in a Jamaican restaurant. I was there with some Jamaican friends,
Yes.
and they were very shocked, because they were all very sure that
He was a
Shinsky
Jamaican.
is a Jamaican.
Correct.
I told them, no, this is a guy, like, I was like, this is his number. I can even call him. This guy is a Kenyan.
Yes.
He lives in Houston, and they were very shocked.
Correct.
I think what I've noticed is, and mine is not research, just like randomly noticing, most West African DJs can play of course Afrobeat, whatever, but then they cannot play East African music.
No, not
But
even
then-
East
They
African.
can't play music
They have no
that is
depth
outside
outside
of
their-
outside of
DJs.
South Africa, meaning amapiano and reggae. Hip hop is even questionable.
But
Most
like
DJs cannot
They
play,
have no depth.
Most DJs cannot play different genres. That's the thing. Most people, the thing is, in Kenya, we are used to listening to different genres of music. So our DJs are used to playing that. We assume that all DJs can do that. Even if you look at the top DJs, Kina David Guetta, they cannot move out of house music. You put them on hip hop or our Ezi, Aya. If you go to Kina Sway, all these hip hop DJs, throw them into reggae, they cannot do anything. So it's a very talented thing that Kenyan DJs have. Most people take it for granted.
Yes.
And commit that ni kitu ya kawaida tu, kila DJ anafaa kujua, lakini ma DJ wengi
It's you
cannot play
Kenyans.
outside of
It's
the
you
normal
Kenyans.
genre
Nyinyi
that
watu,
they want
you're
to
a,
play.
you're a very tough crowd to play for.
So that's why with that, Kenyans are tough crowd. So that's why I think with the Cameroonian DJ, Ruth wasn't.
I mean, I was like,
No, haikuwa inaingia.
Ruth
It was not-
wasn't
no,
feeling
it
him.
wasn't
I
entering.
got
Yeah.
to a point
She's
I
like, what-
literally
she's like,
nilisimama.
what is this?
Yeah,
Sasa hii ni
because even
nini?
me, like especially coming,
Yeah.
it would have been nice if he came before, but now coming after, after you're on such a high, like umetoka kula pilau na biriani alafu unaletewa sijui
Wanakuwa
fufu.
githeri.
Sikutaka kusema githeri, nikasema waletewa fufu.
Githeri.
tuheshimiane.
Na
This
makodofia.
is actually what happened. This is what happened.
Well, Makodofia will trigger this guy. Don't even mention that.
Hapana, makondofia ni top tier bana.
I was
Kuna skate wa
listening.
guacamole.
I was listening to Sunny, and then when this guy at some point, nilisimama na nikajishika hivi, listening. I know. Then the person sitting next to me had the audacity to tell me, "You're not having fun." I'm like, "Yes, I'm not having fun."
Mbona unaniuliza?
Hiyo ndio makatembea kwenda kusalimia watu.
Yeah, that was your break to to do a survey.
To go meet the people.
That's when I met Big Ted.
Okay.
You
Now
know?
you see that. Then that was the.
Yeah.
You are probably on
that
the
was
other
your
side.
So you should
Between
thank that
side.
DJ because maybe you would never have met Big Ted.
Yes.
But no, he was sitting right behind me anyway. So I
Okay.
just turned around and then we went to pictures and came back. But
Yeah.
like, I'm just noting that I did observe that this DJ was good. I'm not saying he's not a good, but like compared to Sunny, was like
He should have crafted it towards the crowd, and maybe he had not been.
He had not
he had not
understood the
been
crowd.
prepped
Yeah.
okay.
And the DC crowd, even though there was a lot of native DCers.
Yeah.
And DC crowd is also exactly like Kenyans in Kenya, in terms of their diversity. of
Yes.
music.
Mhm.
That's true.
They're not like say like an LA crowd that might
But
maybe
that's
like
because
want a
most
hip-hop or a this or
most
whatever,
Kenyans
yeah.
here are very recent
No,
from Kenya.
there's that, but there's also the culture
It's
here.
just-
So the Kenyan culture
No,
here,
they
we
do
keep it
everything.
real. We
They
keep it
do
real with the
everything.
Kenyan culture here.
They do
In
everything.
LA, is where gonna find guys. Oh, I don't do Kenyans. Oh, you guys are listening to Kenyan music. Okay, let me listen. But in DMV, people are very proud. There's a lot of Africans here. There's a lot of pride in our Africanness here.
Kabisa.
So even as Kenyans, we are also very bullish as Kenyans.
Very.
We are very proud.
I will
So there's that keeping it real.
The partying crowd, the crowd that is partying too much right now in the DC is some of the second and third generation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the younger Kenyans. This is the interesting thing. There was a lot of 20-something-year-olds,
Yes.
and we're talking Kenyans who were born here,
yes.
Kenyans who were raised
School
here.
here, yes.
Like that.
was a lot of them.
We've gotten to that point, that
There was a
infection,
lot of them.
that infectious disease has happened, and it's been pushed onto them, and now they're curious about Kenyan music.
We were hanging with our boy's daughter who just graduated.
I know. Mbaka was like-
My nephew.
By the way, this is this is huyu mtu nimeona ni mtu nimeona akizaliwa.
Hata nikienda pet,
Yeah.
when I walk in, I know I'm meeting my nephew and my nieces. I'm not surprised.
Yes.
I'm like,
I'm talking about someone.
Space yenu sahi.
Yes, I'm talking about someone nimeona akizaliwa. Nimeenda hosi
You need to retire now.
Nimeenda OC.
No, but
nikaona
Never,
ki-
ever.
who
then
knew?
I was
Who
like,
knew? And the daughter was there. Then the guy says, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, how's a graduate?" Then he's like, "Oh, here's a graduate." I'm like,
oh, I was like,
and then
okay.
he's like, "Oh, I brought her. This is her present."
Oh,
she wanted to,
yeah.
she
Yeah.
wanted to come to Sautisol.
Yeah,
now
I
this
know.
kid was
This is
born
a
here.
kid who was born here.
She wanted to come to Sautisol,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, wait.
Because think about it, a kid who
it's
was born in
different.
2002 is 21 years old right now.
Yep.
Yeah, a kid who was born in 2002 can buy drinks.
We have 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You need to say maybe you can be their parents.
So let's see over here.
We
Stephen
are their
Batty.
parents.
Stephen Batty.
We are
has
their
just thrown-
parents. Yet we are.
Stephen Batty has just been throwing comment after comment after comment. Slay was asking Terry the hippie, like, yo, really, Ruth Jamaneni?
It's okay. We'll get her prepped.
Sunny
by
and
the
I
way,
have
and
a
I'm
podcast
okay.
together.
We'll get her prepped.
Kaiser Soze is still with us. You guys are forgetting this Dutch Senegal DJ who came on the COVID show. You all are sleeping on him, DJ Mike Afro Jam. Don't sleep on the guy, but it's all good. He's West African and plays East African music. Wait, I thought that was the guy from New Jersey.
There was a couple of
Right?
West African
Yeah.
DJs who were trying to
Yeah,
play East African
the
music.
guy. That's,
Yeah.
Are you talking about the guy from Delaware?
Jersey. Oh, that's
Unajua
different.
kuna kimoja,
Klein.
kuna kimoja,
Oh,
yeah,
Klein. No,
Ruth
but Klein
alisema.
is Eugene.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
wahenga,
Clyde is UG.
wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mika Och. Kadhe. Tuanzie bababa.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very wonderful and a long show, 2 hours over, 1 hour over, but it was a good show. I want to thank Hilary for coming to the show and giving us such a very insightful and delightful show.
Boring is
Like,
that.
we've learned so many things today. To learn about infrastructure, IT Kenya. We've learned about what happened in the rugby. We've learned some more about the finance bill. It was a very insightful show. Thank you, Sana Hilary. Thank you, Ali, for actually suggesting him coming. So we appreciate that. And to our listeners, nilikuwa nimewamiss, man. Sijaona mwezi mzima. Anyway, I'm back. Maybe I'm not taking any more breaks until break next week. Ni Labor Day.
Mumesikia?
Yes, until Labor Day.
Mumesikia
So-
kusema, si ndio?
Labor Day.
Mumesikia.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Haya,
see.
sawa.
Mumemsikia, si ndio?
We'll cut this clip. We'll cut this
So
clip
until
and
Labor
replay
Day,
it.
mimi sichukui break unless ni break ya show mzima, but I'm here. Mimi nimemaliza PTO zangu. All in all, I know it's summertime, people outside. COVID is back. Jichungeni, and don't drink and drive. Take an Uber. Remember, an Uber trip can be $200. It's cheaper than a DUI. Enjoy yourselves. Be blessed. Kwaherini.
Amosh.
Oh, since I've been told that, I need to come after. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. My listeners, thank you. As usual, you guys, you're the ones who make us do this. You make us leave our houses and come over here and entertain you, laugh with you, cry with you, scream with you. And overall, you're the family that makes us keep this thing going. Asanteni. Hila, thank you for taking time out of your day. Sijui ma jet lag, I don't know, sijui hata kwa kichako sahi ni sangapi.
I stopped monitoring.
You stopped calculating. You unaenda tu. Ni sawa. It's all right. Just it's still dark outside, so there's no light for you to nini. So sahi, yeah. But anyway, thank you, and for schooling us. You have schooled us in certain areas. The other hat you wear, that infra tech nini, you tutaonana nyuma ya tent, because it's a very, very interesting area that even that guy sitting next to you from across what is it, Wayakiwe,
Kangemi Intermediate.
yes, ow. So Uomse would definitely want to sit down and have a conversation with you as well. Thank you much.
Give me intermediate.
Where
AKA patch.
wewe si ungeacha tu nimalize alafu kwa hiyo
Okay,
siku
maliza
yako.
pole. No, endelea pole. I apologize.
Anyway, si ungesema tu ni wasewa 23. So
Nasio Jordan.
What?
I did say.
Do I need to walk out of this
I
room?
did not say. I'm a Tusemeni Welcome Kenya Limited. Or they're no longer there. So, as I was saying, thank you much. See you guys next week. Be blessed. And I think eventually we'll come back with hit or miss. Because at the rate we are going with this hit or miss, Inaka will be playing you guys one song at the beginning, one song at the end. And you think about it and
We'll fix that. We'll fix that.
Yeah. But we've had our shows have they've morphed. And if you guys are our followers, you know, we go with the flow. So it is what it is. Asanteni. Back to you, studio.
Ruth.
Oh, hello. I was looking at the comments. Lewis Simuyer just said great show. And Stephen Batty says no, he lives in Amsterdam. The DJ Mike Afro Jam is in Amsterdam.
Okay.
It was great being back. Like, such a great show to come back to. I got to meet Hilary here, and as I said, sports section mutoka tunaenda. Really good listening to like
Well,
what happened.
we
There's
are
a
being called out.
profile
Yeah.
I would literally listen to. Like I would have read if it was written somewhere. So thank you for giving that backstory to rugby. And I really do hope that they have a comeback. I have attended a rugby game once in my lifetime. I try things. I do try.
We give you credit for
and
that.
I loved it. I did love it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, and as for the summer, I will be popping in and out. I'm not promising to be here continuously. I have things I'm taking care of. And if anything, I'll be having surgery in August. So guys, pray for me.
Prayers.
Thank
Amen.
you. But yeah, summertime I'll be in and out. I will definitely I'll tell you guys when I'm coming around.
You sadly will, and
Yeah.
and thank you for coming back. The show had really missed you, and I'm sure the fans were very happy to see you.
Yeah, as long as you don't make fun of me and not knowing Kenyan music, attending Kenyan music, we're good.
No, that's not me. That's Omosh.
No,
and
Was
and-
everyone?
no,
that's
I know,
Omosh.
I
Or
did
not
not-
you, not
I
I.
did
But
not
some
make
people
fun
are
of her
doing.
with Kenyan music.
You're shocked.
You are
I was
shocked.
shocked that she did not know about Thet, and she didn't know Terry, being that she's been in this area for
Yeah.
a quick second.
Yeah,
At
but and
least-
she also met
at-
Big Ted for the first time.
Oh, and actually, I also got to meet him for the first time, but that
No,
was not.
but she did not know who Big Ted was.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hila, your last words.
Thank you very much. Thank you for extending the invitation, Badawi, Ruth, Mr. Microphone Moja, na Bwana Omosh. Whenever I'm actually in town, feel free to actually reach out to me. I think the jet lag is catching up with me now. I'm sounding like I'm in a pub. But probably that's where I'm headed to. I'm not saying neither denying nor confirming.
Okay.
Na
I see what you did there.
na ile kitu ulikuwa umesema Omosh, that Omanyala needs to dip. I've sent him a message and I've told him, proud of you, but work on your photo finish.
Okay.
Cheers guys, and everyone listening in, thank you. Kama nimewakosea naomba pole, kama niliwafurahisha nitaomba tawafurahisha tena, and asanteni for tuning in. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Hila. There was a few comments here that were coming on YouTube. We neglected YouTube kidogo. Afro-Jamaican is shocked that we are still on. Sema he left and now he's gotten back home and we are still here. And then...
Kwani where was he?
I don't know. I think he went to a Jamaican pub,
may
had a
have gone to
drink.
see a man about
yeah.
a horse.
Yeah, and then he came back and he still found us here. And then Steven Okoth anakuambia Hila karibu America. And then there's someone by the name of Bamalion. Anasema karibu sana Hila na ameniambia Ali ebu tembeza mgeni Virginia. Hewa ni safi sana huku. So so hiyo tutaongea baadaye. And then, like there was Njadi here who said misinformation is kama wildfire, if not controlled sooner, it is dangerous. And then Nation of Africa, a good listener here, Nasema it was sad how legends like Kolo, Ambaka, etc. retired while begging donations to the team. And then she's also asking how come Safaricom doesn't help. There must be a story there. They'd benefit from the branding now that M-Pesa is going global.
hii ni kama we'll need another show with
not really.
with
If
Hila.
you read in between the lines,
Yeah.
we may, I'm not confirming it, we may have spoken about why, but continue.
Okay, sawa nyuma ya tent
Put
hiyo
two and two
hapo.
together.
Yeah, and then Nation of Africa anasema John Allan Namu should probably be the kind of person to document that. And you know John Allan Namu was actually a rugby player.
It's actually my teammate.
Yes. Nondis. Yes,
Exactly,
yes,
my
yes.
teammate
That's
on
right.
Nondis.
Nondis scripts. Okay. Sawa. Yeah. So very, very good comments are coming in. Once again, Hila, asante sana. You know, like we caught you on your jet lagged. Oh, and then there's another comment.
Yeah.
Take it easy on Ruth.
Thank
Me,
you,
I'm always
Daddy.
taking it easy. I think this was a message for Omosh,
Tell
Uno
them,
Mike,
tell them
and
to see
Mika.
me later.
Yeah. So I think this was a message for the three of you. But once again, thank you so much Hila for coming through. You've just landed, you know, bado kona vumbi ya sijui ni ulisema ni wapi ulikuwako
Alikataa sio kimao.
Kazakhstan.
alikataa sio kimao kama petero. Alikataa rongai kama petero, you know. So I think huu ni mtu wa zile suburbs uko hataki kumention
Leafy.
yeah, hizo leafy suburbs hataki kumention.
Leafy si waga ni moja tu.
Yeah, ndo leafy ziko siku ziko
Leafy
nyingi.
waga ni one.
Bunyore.
Leafy waga ni one.
No,
See yo. Leafy waga ni one.
ni gani hiyo hapo?
Ile Karen.
Okay.
Hiyo ndo waga leafy.
Okay, but
zingine-
nowadays the mpaka Kiambu Road,
But
they're
they are
creating
not-
their own leaves
They are
huko.
not leafy.
Eh?
They are not leafy.
But they're creating their own leaves huko. No, na watu wana move mpaka huko.
They could be,
Yeah.
but they are not leafy.
They're not leafy.
No.
Okay, sawa
Leafy
sawa.
waga ni one.
Okay. Yeah, we really appreciated you, all that information, all that knowledge you got. You know, in this show, people like talking. But when you were talking during that rugby segment, people were silent because
They were listening.
all the maswali za polisi, you know, like everything that I prepared here, you know, like nothing, you know, like they all went.
You had them lined up, eh?
Yeah, I had
Kwa
them
ile
lined
script.
up. I had them lined up. I was gonna corner
Firing
Hila.
squad.
I was gonna corner Hila. I was gonna put him on a corner.
You are ready?
Yes, I was ready. But then I think he was. I don't know whether he had
He
anticipated
came
or.
prepared. See, he knew
Yeah.
what he was doing.
I am a trained lawyer, so you say you understand where you're going to go to, you understand where there might be what pitfalls, declare.
Because here's the interesting thing, you know, like that normal question we ask all our guests, which is there anything that's out of bounds that we should not ask? Guess what Hila said? Alisema uliza everything.
So I did.
Wow.
Yes,
that's
alisema
good.
uliza everything, you know. And that's a very important question because sometimes there's certain questions that maybe people don't want to discuss,
Right,
you know,
right,
for
right,
professional
right,
reasons
right,
or for personal reasons. And most guests, you know, like including the likes of Kinali Kiba, there were some things that they laid out to us. Hii hapa, this is Otwaya, hii usiguse. But yeah, so we really appreciate that, which shows how much passion you have for what you do, and how much and the depth of knowledge that you brought in. We really appreciate that. You know, Ruth, again, welcome back. And this conversation on the financial bill tutaendelea. We don't know if I don't know whether it's next week when it's going to be debated, and if it's going to be passed, we need to figure out what's going to happen after that.
Does that mean we need to figure out how much money we are sending home?
Yes, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
because all these taxes, it's going to be replaced by dollars. You know, dollars that you could have been spending in Swahili Village,
Yeah.
dollars that you could have been spending, you know, like in Las Vegas or wherever. Now they have to go back to Kenya, and that's just the reality that diasporans have to live with. You ignore what's happening in Kenya. Guess what? You can't
It
ignore
will
what's happening
affect
to your
you.
bank account.
It will affect you.
Yes.
Come what may.
Yes,
And by the way, isn't there a leg of the IRB that was Chomolawad?
IRB sevens.
Yeah.
I think
There's
several.
a leg. Several,
I
eh?
think s-
They've
they changed
adjusted
things.
it.
That
They
probably
changed-
goes to what you're saying. Maybe
They changed
the
things
economy.
around.
Yeah.
They changed things around.
I think there were certain, but anyway.
Cities. There were some cities that were dropped.
Yeah. But anyway, hiyo tuta confirm. Na kwa hayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Get another number.
And
Doesn't work.
keep your gun. Keep your gun. You guys have not mentioned.
Oh, I mentioned her at the beginning of the show.
Please say it again.
You are late, but
say
it's
it
okay. Faith Kipyegon, world record holder, 1,500 meters, world
5,000.
record holder, 5,000 meters within 8 days. I don't think this has ever happened before. This is so amazing. To me, that's one of the people. She's been added to the list of people that I want to meet one day. Yes.
Goat. She's in that goat list.
Yes, she's in that goat list.
Yes.
All right, Uno Mike.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. DJ Machachari, Tondoy.
Aganes chongo, aganas wehe, aganes indubutwa. Yanza welinde mama wechunge nenda banduba usaba. Yanza welinde mama wechunge nenda banduba tama. Yanza uninde na njelele titi kalundo. Yanza uninde na njelele titi kalundo. Baida, baida, omwana inyanya, omwana mabele, omwana indumbu. Yanzo mudara mukato, mudara mupango, mudara mubwaba. Tumiza mbezimu, aiswe, onange mubebindu. Aiswe, tumiza mbezimu, onange mubebindu. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na makaro kanyasinga. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na matengo kanyasinga. Tumiza mbezimu, onange mubebindu. Mama wanje wayanze musoro, papa wanje wayanze musinyira, nyamusara wayanze musoro, nyamufiti wayanze musinyira. Yanzobe file, burombo menyo. Yanzobe file, ni burunga inyombe baida. Baida, omwana inyanya, omwana mabele, omwana indumbu. Yanzo mudara mukato, mudara mupango, mudara mubwaba. Tumiza bezimu, aiswe, onange mubebindu. Aiswe, tumiza bezimu, onange mubebindu. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na makaro kanyasinga. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na matengo kanyasinga. Tumiza bezimu, onange mubebindu. Mama tumbelesyo mwea uyo, oramuwa izongota. Tumbelesyo mwea, oramuwe chikasitiziro. Tumbelesyo mwea uyo, na ulongo wigonae. Mawelinde mama wechungele na banduba usaba. Yanza wechunge mama welinde na ndaba naba boda boda. Baida omwana inyanya, omwana mabele, omwana indumbu. Yanzo mudara mukato, mudara mupango, mudara mubwaba. Tumiza bezimu, aiswe, onange mubebindu. Aiswe, tumiza bezimu, onange mubebindu. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na makaro kanyasinga. Manyilenda kuleka mwitala, na matengo kanyasinga. Tumiza bezimu, onange mubebindu. Yes, mama wabana. Ubolla wo. Olomulamu. Zunde mumakomye. Omwana liya burende ya omwana muyaye mulamu wobura. Yayanje ntiyolosa. Kandi ambeka okusamula nage injoka yakasachere banga tabu. Nakusaba.